Chapter 868. Only the beginning? And Lin and Su Xiaolan were both shocked to hear this. If the destruction of the Purple Star civilization was only the beginning, then they really didn't dare to imagine what was going to happen next. They didn't dare to think about it, and the Celestial Arch continued to force words into their minds. The Purple Star race is a branch of the human race. Do you understand what I'm saying? The Celestial Arch spoke slowly, and Lin's pupils contracted, and he drew a sharp intake of breath. The divine retribution will affect us. The Celestial Arch didn't directly answer in Lin's question. Instead, he pointed to the sky. I've told you before, the hole in the sky has only disappeared, but that doesn't mean it has been repaired. The first time the divine retribution descended, the powerful Purple Star civilization was destroyed without any resistance. At that time, the most panicked were naturally the Kingdom of the Nine States and the Western Paradise. What if the divine retribution targeted not only the Purple Star race, but the entire human race instead? Or perhaps the divine retribution targeted the entire world? This speculation is not without reason. The hole in the sky appeared and disappeared from time to time, and the Kingdom of the Nine States and the Western Paradise were struck by terrifying natural disasters over the past few days. Other powers also experienced natural disasters of varying degrees. We immediately invited Her Majesty Nuwa and the three heavenly venerates to use chaotic divine stones to plug up the hole in the sky, which is the flaw in the heavenly Tao. However, this method is only a delaying tactic. Plugging up a hole and fixing a flaw are two different things. The more the hole is plugged up, the more terrifying the wrath of the heavens will be. Hence, the next time the divine retribution descends, the human race will most likely be wiped out, or it could be a calamity that will affect the entire continent. And Lin and Su Xiaolan were dumbstruck upon hearing this. So there was such a terrifying hidden threat in this world. F***CK. They really were going to save the world. And Lin really wanted to yell, "Yalai die." So the explosion in the holy city of snow maidens has something to do with the divine retribution? And Lin asked. The Celestial Arch nodded. Cracks have appeared on the chaotic divine stones, and the disaster brought about by the flaw in the heavenly Tao is slowly becoming apparent. The holy city of the snow maidens is the node of the power of frost in the world. When the node loses control and explodes, we speculate that this is a disaster brought about by the heavenly Tao's flaw. Su Xiaolan heaved a faint sigh. The Purple Star civilization is too powerful. Not only do they screw themselves to death, but they're also planning to screw the entire continent to death. And Lin was displeased. Celestial Arch, I'm just an ordinary soul formation cultivator. I can't save the world. Letting me know about this kind of thing, other than making me unhappy, what else can it do? The Celestial Arch nodded calmly and said, It's enough that I made you unhappy. And Lin, Haha, I was just joking. The Celestial Arch waved his hand and continued, Among us top-rate mighty figures, we've tried countless ways to remedy the heavenly Tao's imperfections. In these tens of thousands of years of hard work, many methods have been eliminated. There are only 3 schools of thought left. One of the schools was proposed by some idiots. They believe that as long as the human race is destroyed, the heavens will be appeased, and the hole in the heavenly Tao will heal itself. Of course, we have to fight them as soon as we see them. As for the other 2 schools, I feel like you should know about them, Enlin. At this moment, the Celestial Arch turned to Enlin with a hint of anticipation and curiosity in his eyes. One of the schools is the Heaven-Crushing Sect. They believe in the Heaven-Crushing Sect. They believe that if the heavenly Tao can be destroyed, then it can also be killed. They want to destroy the heavenly Tao, then rebuild it, and even replace the heavenly Tao with their own bodies. I think Chen Shun told you about this when he looked for you, right? Chen Shun and Enlin's meeting in the dark marshlands naturally couldn't be hidden from the Celestial Arch. Enlin nodded in acknowledgement. A smile appeared on the Celestial Thearch's face. The Heaven-Crushing Sect has acknowledged you, which means that you do indeed have some kind of connection with the heavenly Tao. You were able to join the Heaven-Crushing Sect, so I'm sure you have the right to join the other school as well. And Lin faltered upon hearing this. What school? The celestial arch looked at Lin with a serious expression. The heaven-mending sect. Do you want to know more about it? I don't want to know. And Lin's expression darkened. The heaven-crushing sect had come. And now, the heaven-mending sect had come? Was there going to be a heavenly sun sect next? Was there going to be a small heavenly Tao in the future? The celestial arch ignored Lin and continued. The heaven-mending sect's mission is even simpler. All we have to do is to completely repair the flaws in the heavenly Tao. Then why are you telling me this? And Lin was enraged. He really didn't want to hear any more of this. What was the point of learning so much about this? Was he really going to rely on a soul formation stage, Cultivator, to save the world? Were all Tao integration stage, super mighty figures, and gods of creation supposed to be pushovers? The celestial arch was not enraged. Instead, he explained in an extremely patient manner. Mending the heavens requires a living being that is compatible with the heavenly Tao. All we have to do is find out what the heavenly Tao is missing, then have the heaven-mending being cultivate that missing part before using their own body to mend the heavenly Tao. This is a very feasible plan. And Lin's flesh crawled upon hearing this. Why are you telling me all this? Young man, I feel like you have a lot of potential. The celestial arch replied in a straightforward manner. And Lin's lips twitched. Su Xiaolan was even more direct. F***ck off. Xiaozhe whipped his tail toward the celestial arch. You're asking my master to die? You're courting death. Boom! The massive tail was unable to advance any further than 10 feet away from the celestial arch. Calm down. I'm not asking you to die. You don't have to sacrifice yourself to mend the heavenly Tao. There are also ways to avoid death. The celestial arch continued. There's no need to say anything more. I'm not interested. And Lin shook his head as he looked at the celestial arch with an extremely determined expression. The celestial arch moved his lips upon seeing Lin's expression, but he gave up in the end. So be it. I've only revealed some of this to you because of the incident with the Snow Maidens. There are still other candidates for the heaven-mending sect. If you want to join the heaven-mending sect, then contact me. The celestial arch heaved a forlorn sigh, and Lin nodded, but in his heart, he was thinking, contact my A***s. Even if I were to join the heaven-crushing sect, I wouldn't join the heaven-mending sect. Thus, the matter came to a conclusion. The celestial arch didn't say anything else. He had already said everything that needed to be said. Never would Lin have thought that their conversation would yield so much earth-shattering information. This world wasn't as peaceful as it seemed, and Lin couldn't help but feel a little disconsolate as he thought back to what he had just said. He had never thought of himself as an ordinary person. He was so exceptional. It was exactly because he was so exceptional that he was so distressed. The holy glacial lands had been struck by a devastating disaster. If this was due to a flaw in the heavenly Tao, then where was the next disaster going to strike? Chapter 869. Lin and the others flew out of the holy glacial lands and into the kingdom of the 9 states. Lin's system suddenly flashed again. He opened it to find that the mission progress for the god of war heaven blasting cannon had been updated. The 10 return to void stage mighty figures had been reduced to 6 again, and the wild saber immortal had been added to the list. Tisk, that's strange. Why does this be asterisk? Start only hate me now. Shouldn't it have hated me when I broke the spell formation? Lin was a little perplexed. Unbeknownst to him, the wild saber immortal was being pummeled relentlessly by the Divine Bat Emperor in the distance. The Divine Bat Emperor didn't believe a single word of the wild saber immortal's explanation as to how the spell formation had been broken. The Kirin Blood Jade was so close to being his, but it had escaped right under his nose. How could the Divine Bat Emperor just accept this? He had nowhere to vent his rage, so he could only pummel the wild saber immortal. The wild saber immortal's hatred toward Lin hadn't reached a certain level yet, but after a series of vicious beatings, it finally exploded. It could be said that it hated the man who broke its formation to the core. On a massive floating continent, all types of immortal buildings were situated here, and a massive rift had appeared within an immortal abode enshrouded in white divine light. A graceful man in an imperial robe with divine, might exuding from his features, and made his way out of the rift with several humans and beasts trailing behind him. "This is my treasure pavilion. Please wait here." The man who had spoken was none other than the master of the celestial court, the celestial Arch. Lin and the others waited obediently off to the side. A celestial maiden in a plain Taoist robe made her way over from nearby. Lin, Xiaoza, Xiaolan, "I'm so glad you're all right." The celestial maiden made her way over with an elated smile on her face. "It's all thanks to your timely notification. Also, your father is so handsome." Lin was not stingy with his praise this time. "Indeed, the celestial Arch is the most domineering I've ever seen." Su Xiaolan nodded in agreement. The celestial maiden was none other than the celestial Thearch's daughter, Lin Junjun. The smile on her face widened upon hearing others praise her father. "Of course, my father is the best." Lin Junjun turned to the middle-aged man beside her with a curious expression. "Are you the demonic blood Kirin?" The middle-aged man shook his head with a solemn expression. "I'm no longer the demonic blood Kirin. I'm a cultured man with a name. My name is Dongfang Zhuangshi. PFFF." Lin Junjun couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of saliva before immediately coming to a realization. "Cough, cough, cough. Oh my, the celestial court is a little cold. I must have caught a cold." "What nice name." Lin Junjun praised sincerely. "Thank you." The uncle smiled and nodded, and Lin and Su Xiaolan felt as if 10,000 beasts were stampeding madly in their hearts. He exclaimed in his heart, as expected of father and daughter. Their reactions were exactly the same. "Can't you be more shameless and be more honest? Don't speak against your conscience." Soon, the celestial Arch emerged from the treasure pavilion and tossed a storage ring to Lin. 15 million spirit stones are all in there. You can count them. Lin didn't count the storage ring. Instead, he blinked in confusion. 10 million spirit stones as a minimum, no upper limit. Did that mission really only give 10 million? The celestial Arch cursed internally, but a smile appeared on his face. "That's right. Information is only worth that much. After all, there's not much useful information. Don't you King know who got the most out of this mission? If it weren't for the fact that Lin and the others had risked their lives and endured many hardships, he wouldn't even want to give them the 10 million spirit stones." And Lin handed the storage ring to Xiaoza. "I'm going back to the university soon. Take these spirit stones back to the 4-9 Immortal Sect." These were the rewards they had received for completing missions in the name of the 4-9 Immortal Sect, so they naturally had to be included in the 4-9 Immortal Sect's funds. Xiaoza accepted the storage ring, and he was extremely motivated. He had already made up his mind to make the sect look good. That way, he would be even more proud when Fanny came to visit him. Under certain circumstances, love really could be the driving force behind a man's efforts. And Lin was also very happy to see this. After all, he was the one who had played the matchmaker for these two, so he felt a great sense of accomplishment. And Lin bade farewell to the celestial Arch and Lin Junjun before returning to the university. Xiaoza and Ao Nio went to the 4-9 Immortal Sect to build a beautiful new sect. Dongfang Zhuangshi couldn't leave Lin, so he took the groundhog and gluttony with him to the United University of Cultivation. With his powerful consciousness, it wouldn't be a problem for him to leave Lin for a while. However, he still had to plan his mythological beast body. On a bright and sunny afternoon, within the fourth-year dormitory area of Xiaoxian United University, Xiao Hong was standing on the windowsill of the small attic. She was gorgeously dressed as she sang a beautiful song. The sunlight shone down upon her body, transforming it into pure energy, and her cultivation base was also slowly progressing. She was the second person in the Beast Pet team to reach the soul formation stage after Xiao Chou. Dabai worked hard to progress to the half-step soul formation stage, but he was still at the bottom of the Beast Pet team. His fourth brother hadn't even been born yet, so he couldn't compare. His fifth sister was already at the return to void stage. His sixth brother was about to progress to the legendary return to void stage, and his seventh brother or seventh sister in the Phoenix Egg was already more powerful than him even before they were born. Dabai was in despair. He also lay on the windowsill and stared at Xiao Hong with his big, round eyes. Xiao Hong's cultivation base was progressing just by singing and basking in the sun. He was extremely envious of her. Dabai, don't you need to cultivate today? Specks of golden light erupted from Tina's wings as she flew around the snowy white dog with a dainty smile. No, I feel like no matter how hard I try, I won't be able to catch up to Xiao Hong. This is a huge blow to my confidence, woof. Dabai was a little dejected. I'm still at the bottom of the beast pet team. I heard that Big Brother and is coming back today, so I hope he can bring back one or two underlings with lower cultivation bases than me from the sinister spirit bee cesspool. Tina cocked her head to the side as her emerald eyes shimmered under the sunlight. She opened her mouth to say something, but she swallowed her words in the end. Stupid Dabai. Wouldn't Lin take in underlings with lower cultivation bases than you? Not long after that, the sound of a door being opened sounded. I'm back, and Lin yelled. Expressions of elation appeared on Tina and Dabai's faces as they rushed toward the door to greet their master. Welcome home, Giant and Lin. Tina was elated. Big Brotherin, did you reap anything from the sinister spirit beast cesspool? Woof. Dabai was extremely excited. I did. You're going to have a new member. Lin replied with a mysterious expression. Dabai's body shuddered as his mouth gaped open. My God. Happiness had come too suddenly. Was this what it meant to be a dream come true? Was he finally going to have another underling? Was he going to be the last in the beast pet team? Big Brotherin, who is it? Dabai asked with a scorching light in his eyes. Lin waved a hand. Little Goo, come out. Immediately afterward, a translucent little white insect that was as beautiful as a work of art appeared before Dabai. Insect? A smile appeared on Dabai's face. You're Little Goo, right? I'm Dabai. You can call me Big Brother Bai from now on. Don't worry, I'll protect you no matter what happens. The little white insect nodded obediently before speaking in an extremely pleasant voice. Hello, Big Brother Bai. Dabai was extremely satisfied. By the way, what cultivation base are you at now, Little Goo? I'm a half-step soul formation stage spirit beast, so I'm only half a step away from becoming a soul beast. Woof. The little white insect replied in a crisp voice. You're the best, Big Brother Bai. I'm a return to void initial stage immortal beast. Boom. The jade bone immortal bug's voice crashed into Dabai's mind like a bolt of divine thunder. Dabai's body trembled with shock. Little Goo, what did you say? Your cultivation base. To be more precise, I'm at the pinnacle of the return to void initial stage. The jade bone immortal bug replied with a sheepish expression. Boom. Another critical strike. Dabai's body swayed unsteadily as a tragic smile appeared on its face. Immortal beast? Hee. It was flexing in front of an immortal beast. Plop. Dabai's body collapsed onto the ground, and there was a look of despair on his face. What's wrong, Big Brother Bai? The little white insect asked with concern. I'm such a useless dog, woof. A tragic smile appeared on Dabai's face as it closed its eyes. Tina and Lin, Chapter 870. Dabai, what's wrong? And Lin asked with concern. Don't bother me. I'm worse than a worm. I'm just a dog at the bottom, woof. Dabai lay on the ground with a lifeless expression. And Lin finally understood why Dabai was like this. It turned out that his confidence had been crushed by the other members of the Beast Pet team. He squatted down beside Dabai and stroked his furry head as he spoke in a gentle voice. Dabai, your horizons are too narrow. You need to broaden your horizons and not just focus on our Beast Pet team. My horizons are too narrow? Dabai blinked his big black eyes with a thoughtful expression. That's right. And Lin spoke in a meaningful voice. What rank is Lou de Bayo's beach sea turtle? I think it's 5th stage Dao body. Woof. Dabai nodded. Then beat it up. And Lin spoke with a solemn expression. He continued, let me ask you again, what rank is Tang Shimin's Earth Explosion Lion? I think it's 8th stage Dao body. Dabai was a little hesitant. I can't beat you, so I'll just go beat him up. And Lin spoke in a matter-of-fact manner. Will I really not be beaten up by Tang Shimin then? Woof. Dabai was scared. He's just a spirit-nurturing stage cultivator. How is he going to beat you? And Lin chuckled. Dabai suddenly came to a realization. Let me ask you again, Chong-E's rabbit. Forget about it. And Lin waved his hand. Expand your horizons beyond our beast pet team to the entire Xiaoxian United University. You'll find that aside from our beast pet team, which other beast pet team isn't a pushover. Once you expand your horizons, you'll find that you're invincible. Dabai's eyes widened as if he had understood something. It murmured with tears in its eyes. So that's how it is. So I've always been too short-sighted. Tina was shocked. It turned out that her horizons were too narrow, and she needed to broaden them. Was this what he meant? So, short-sightedness could be used like this? The jade bone immortal bug was also very astonished. This was the first time it had discovered that its master was such a smooth talker. Dabai was truly touched by Lin's words, and he gave him an excited hug. Big brotherin, you're the best. Listening to you is more rewarding than cultivating for 10 years. Woof. And Lin smiled and rubbed the dog's head. He wasn't spouting nonsense. It was just like China's table tennis players. After entering the national team, they felt that they couldn't beat anyone and felt very desperate and inferior. Then broaden your horizons and look at the entire world. If he went to another country to play against them, he would be able to beat them in all sorts of ways and regain his confidence. Go, Dabai. Go find your glory. And Lin encouraged. All right, big brother, and I'm going now, woof. Dabai waved a paw and bade farewell to Lin before walking out of the dorm room with its chest puffed out and its head held high. Dabai exited the dorm room and was greeted by the sight of a new house being constructed on a lawn several dozen meters away from the dorm room. There was a man and two beasts gesturing to the side. Hee. Were they new neighbors? A sly smile appeared on Dabai's face. Big brother Bai was the boss here. It was time for them to experience the horror of being dominated by Big Brother Bai. Dabai made his way over and cleared his throat. Ahem, you're new here? The man turned around and nodded politely. That's right, and you are? Dabai took a look at the male. Wow, this student looks a bit old. He looks like a middle-aged man. Could he be a backdoor student or something? Dabai patted his chest with his paw and continued. I'm Dabai. I'm the leader of this place. As the gang leader here, I'll take care of you in the future, but you have to address me respectfully as Brother Bai, understand? You have to greet me when you see me, and you have to be respectful and respectful, understand? Haha. The groundhog chortled with glee. Where did this stupid dog come from? Even dogs are so stupid. So its owner must be a stupid C** and T as well, right? Ha ha! Dabai's eyes widened, and he slammed his paw into the ground, upon which the ground instantly cracked open. His half-step soul formation stage aura also exploded forth. Little mouse, I'll give you one chance to reorganize your words. Dabai was truly enraged. A mere groundhog dared to jump on his head and mock him? What would he do in the future? If he didn't teach it a lesson, it wouldn't know why the flowers were so red. Where did this stupid dog come from? F***ck off. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. The groundhog didn't back down in the slightest. The middle-aged man didn't say anything. Instead, he looked on with an intrigued expression. Dabai woof, the groundhog, both of them roared as they pounced toward one another. Thump, 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 bang, bang, bang. Clatter, 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 puff, 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 after an earth-shattering battle. Dabai lay on the ground with a bruised and swollen face. On its body was a ferocious groundhog. Why? Didn't you say you were invincible in the entire school? Why? Why was I beaten into the ground by a groundhog in my first battle? Dabai finally broke down and bawled with tears streaming down his face. The groundhog faltered upon seeing this. Why was she crying when they were going to fight? As a native of the sinister spirit beast cesspool, he couldn't accept someone crying after losing a battle. How disgusting. The groundhog walked away with a disdainful expression. Who are you calling disgusting? Woof. Dabai stopped crying and glared angrily. Heh, I'm talking about a dog that cries after losing a fight. How disgusting. The groundhog didn't even try to disguise its disdain. Dabai was enraged, and he pounced toward the groundhog again. I'm going to kill you. Woof. Rumble. His domain erupted. Silver wind blades enveloped the entire void. The groundhog chuckled fearlessly, and another intense battle ensued. Thump, thump, thump. Pa pa pa. Da da da. Poo pu pu. After the fierce battle, Dabai was once again foaming at the mouth and lying on the ground. Do you concede? The groundhog stood on Dabai's back and looked down at him from above. Dabai was so angry that his whole body trembled. I don't accept this, woof. What followed was another series of bouncing. Pa pa pa. Da da da. Poo pu in the small attic. Lin had just experienced an extremely perilous battle, and he was finally able to relax. As such, he naturally had to take a good rest and enjoy the rest of his life. He poured a cup of tea for himself. This was a spirit tea from the sinister spirit beast cesspool, and it was known as the White Fox Immortal Tea. It was extremely fragrant and was completely different from the violent atmosphere of that rundown place. Tina sat on the table with her legs crossed, and she carefully held the teacup in her little hands before sipping from it. Delicious. Her eyes narrowed with bliss as she praised from the bottom of her heart. A faint smile appeared on Lin's face as he also sipped from his cup. Giant Lin, do you think it's a good idea for Dabai to bully other people's beast pets like this? Tina asked in a quiet voice. He won't. Lin shook his head with a confident expression. Dabai knows what he's doing. He'll only scare those little animals at most, but he won't do anything serious. His voice had only just fallen. Bang! The sound of the doorbell rang out. Dabai appeared at the door. You're back already? Tina was surprised, and Lin was also quite surprised, and a smile appeared on his face. It's probably because he's too lonely and couldn't find a worthy opponent, so he decided to come back. Dabai then appeared before them. His face was swollen, and his entire body was covered in bruises. One of his teeth was broken, and there were still traces of tears on his face. Wah! Big brotherin. Dabai pounced toward Lin and sobbed. I'm never going out again. I'm so useless. I can't beat anyone. The outside world is so scary. Woof. Lin. Chapter 871. Lin was dumbstruck upon seeing Dabai's pitiful state. Holy F***. Dabai, how did you end up like this? Who did this? A groundhog? Woof. Dabai felt like he had been completely humiliated today, and he spoke with a humiliated expression. Lin, he felt like he already knew why Dabai had lost. A golden groundhog, that's about half the height of a grown man? Lin asked. Dabai's expression shifted. That's right. Big brotherin. How did you know? Woof. Lin's lips twitched as he heaved a forlorn sigh. That groundhog is a soul beast at the soul formation pinnacle stage from the sinister spirit beast cesspool. It would be a miracle if you could defeat it. Dabai's mouth gaped open in shock. That groundhog isn't a beast pet of the Alliance of Cultivation. You have to broaden your horizons, but don't go overboard. Go on, Dabai, and continue your journey of conquest. Lin tossed a regenerative spirit pill to Dabai as he continued to offer words of encouragement. Dabai's body shuddered, and he hugged Lin tightly as he shook his head vigorously. No, big brotherin, I feel like I'll be fine as long as I stay by your side. A harmonious society is the most important thing. Woof. Dabai was as scared as a dog at this moment. He really was scared. He had only just stepped out of the house, and he was already beaten to a pulp by a groundhog, who knew what would happen if he continued to wander around. Lin had no choice but to let Dabai do as he pleased. However, not long after that, a knock sounded on the door. He walked over to open the door, only to discover that Dongfang Zhuangshi had come to visit with the peerless saber demon and gluttony. Dabai's legs gave out from under him again upon seeing this visitor. He almost thought that this was a pervert who had come to beat him up again. He was then greeted by the sight of Lin making his way over to the middle-aged man. The conversation was very pleasant. After learning the truth, the groundhog came over to apologize to Dabai, and this made Dabai feel extremely flattered. So you guys know each other? You should have said so earlier. Woof. Dabai came back to its senses and spoke with a wronged expression. It felt like it had been beaten up for nothing. No discord, no concord. A smile appeared on the groundhog's face. My Dao title is the Peerless Saber Demon, so let's call each other brothers from now on. You can call me Big Brother Saber, and I'll call you Little Brother Bai. How about that? Dabai shuddered. He was the one who wanted to be the big brother first. and Lin and Dongfang Zhuangshi chatted as they sipped tea. As the conversation went on, the middle-aged man finally talked about something important. Now that I've returned to this world, I've abandoned my identity as the demonic blood Kirin and am going to live on as a human as Dongfang Zhuangshi. Now, the plan to reconstruct my body is about to begin, the middle-aged man announced. Oh, is there anything I can help you with? Lin was feeling a little guilty about the Kirin Bloodjade incident. After all, the Kirin Bloodjade was the most perfect body for the middle-aged man. However, it had been swallowed by Lin, which resulted in the middle-aged man clinging to Lin all the time. He felt really terrible. All right, and Lin had to admit that this wasn't an issue of guilt. He just didn't want a weird middle-aged man clinging to him all the time. He and Su Xiaolin had risked their lives to save Dongfang Zhuangshi from that accursed place, so they had repaid the favor. They had helped the middle-aged man break out of prison right under Panga's nose. Wait. The thought suddenly occurred to Lin, and his eyes widened as he drew a sharp intake of breath. He had saved the criminal that Pangu was going to punish. Didn't it mean that he and Pangu were enemies now? A chill ran down his spine at the thought of this. Mr. Lin, what's wrong? Dongfang Zhuangshi noticed that Lin's expression was a little off. No, it's nothing. Lin forced a smile onto his face, but he felt a chill run down his spine. He felt like he was about to die. Go on. Lin smiled. Dongfang Zhuangshi nodded. A body that's too weak can't bear my powerful and perfect consciousness, so I have to forge a perfect mythological beast body myself. Lin's lips twitched upon hearing this. Could they not be so exaggerated? Dongfang Zhuangshi continued. First of all, in order to ensure the divinity and spirituality of this body, I need to obtain the heart of the divine god and the divine god's elixir. Gasp! Lin drew a sharp intake of breath. What is it? Dongfang Zhuangshi was confused. Nothing, go on. Lin paused for a moment before taking another sip of tea to calm himself down. The heart of the divine god was an inherited divine rank consciousness body, while the divine god elixir was an inherited divine rank energy body. He recalled that when he progressed to the soul formation stage, one of the mission requirements was to absorb the heart of the divine god and the divine god's elixir. Dongfang Zhuangshi continued. The second requirement is also more difficult. I need to consume a divine paragon fruit and use the divine fruit to forge a mythological beast body. PFFF. Lin spat out a mouthful of tea. The middle-aged man was dumbstruck. What are you doing? Why are you so flustered? Lin's lips twitched. Uncle, are you sure this is the material to forge a mythological beast body? Of course. Why would I lie to you? Dongfang Zhuangshi was a little angry. Why would I need the exact same material to progress to the soul formation stage as you do? Lin couldn't help but ask. Dongfang Zhuangshi, you shouldn't need that material to progress to the soul formation stage. Dongfang Zhuangshi spoke with a serious expression. But I really did. I have no reason to lie to you. Lin replied with a serious expression. I can testify to that, woof. Dabai raised his paw. Dongfang Zhuangshi fell silent. Was there something wrong? Why did he feel like his grand plan to forge a mythological beast body had suddenly become so lame? That's not it. I need a few more pieces of mythological beast bones. Dongfang Zhuangshi seemed to have found something that could save him some face, and he spoke with an excited expression. Let me tell you, the divine paragon fruit can forge a body, but the bones of mythological beasts are the most difficult to obtain. In this current world, the bones of mythological beasts that have not been processed are far too rare. You need to be extremely lucky to find them. Boom. Dongfang Zhuangshi didn't even get a chance to finish his sentence before a series of white bones appeared before him, all of which exuded extremely terrifying energy fluctuations. These are the mythological beast bones you want. If they're not enough, I have more in my storage ring, Lin said with a lavish expression. Dongfang Zhuangshi, this was a little too much, and he needed some time to recover. Thank you. Dongfang Zhuangshi stowed the mythological beast bones away without any hesitation. I feel like the aura of these bones is a little familiar, he said. Do you know about the bones of the mutant blood phoenix? And Lin asked. Dongfang Zhuangshi faltered slightly upon hearing this before a complex expression appeared on his face. Fate sure is mysterious. He didn't continue on this topic. Instead, he began a discussion about the heart of the divine god and the divine god's elixir. I might have to search for the tombs of mighty figures all over the world. Only those tombs can give birth to the heart of the divine god and the divine god's elixir. I've calculated the energy within my body, and if I leave your side and don't fight, I can last about a year. If a battle erupts, then it's hard to say. An intense battle could exhaust all of the energy within my body. And Lin nodded. You don't have anything like a portable power source? Dongfang Zhuangshi faltered upon hearing this. Oh, it's like a backup energy ball. The kind that you can use to replenish energy when you run out, and Lin explained. Dongfang Zhuangshi shook his head. I can't. I can only obtain energy by getting close to you. You're like the sun, and I'm like a blade of grass. If I don't see you for too long, then I'll die. Xiao Hong suddenly chimed in her sweet voice. That's the most touching confession I've ever heard. And Lin, Dongfang Zhuangshi, can't you just photosynthesize? Why do you have to butt in? And Lin was enraged. I think Xiao Hong has a point. Dabai raised a paw in agreement. Slap. Dabai was slapped to the ground by Lin. That's fine. You can come back whenever you want to replenish your energy. I'm usually at the university. And Lin massaged his brows. Dongfang Zhuangshi nodded with a smile. One last thing. I need to find a place to settle the vast land of blood. This floating continent also needs to absorb the power of stars to maintain its operation. I've already received permission from the Celestial Arch to settle near Xiaoxian United University. Do you have any recommendations? And Lin pondered for a moment before his eyes abruptly lit up. Chapter 872. Over 1,000 kilometers to the west of Xiaoxian United University. And Lin arrived atop a cloud atop his dog with a smile on his face. This is the place. Dongfang Zhuangshi stepped through the air and looked around at the floating white clouds. There was nothing special about this place, so he asked with a curious expression, Why did you choose this place? Didn't you say that your vast land of blood needs to absorb the power of stars? This is the place where the power of stars is the most abundant when Xiaolan and I stroll through the clouds at night. And Lin replied with a smile. Dongfang Zhuangshi was caught off guard and forced another mouthful of dog food into his mouth. A crimson bead suddenly appeared in his mouth, and he spat it into the air. The bead flew toward the white clouds, and the space around it began to twist and warp. Countless materials shot forth in a spiral pattern, which was none other than the land and buildings of the vast land of blood. Soon, a crimson continent appeared before everyone's eyes. The bead flew toward the massive mushroom house at the center of the continent, from which a boundless red light emanated. By the way, Uncle Dongfang, why did you build so many mushroom houses up there? Who are they for? And Lin asked with a perplexed expression. He had thought that this was some kind of set of ruins with all types of living beings on it, but that was not the case. These were all empty houses with strange appearances. Well, Dongfang Zhuangshi looked at Lin, as if he was hesitating about something. And Lin spoke with a serious expression. Uncle Dongfang, don't hide those things from me. Perhaps it was because he had been influenced by Lin's appearance, or perhaps it was because of the Kirin blood jade's concealment effect. But Dongfang Zhuangshi finally heaved a faint sigh before extending a hand toward the continent. So be it. I'll show you what this continent really looks like. Dongfang Zhuangshi's hand began to flip over, and, at the same time, the vast land of blood also began to flip over. In the end, the houses were facing the ground, and the rock formation at the bottom was facing the sky. And Lin blinked with confusion. What? Why is the vast land of blood standing upside down? Is this what the continent really looks like? The vast land of blood is standing upside down? He felt like he had been played. Dongfang Zhuangshi, don't say anything, come with me. The uncle gently landed on the edge of the boundless rock formation and arrived at a certain place. And Lin rode by and followed behind the uncle. When they landed on the rock stratum, they discovered that there seemed to be a faintly discernible door of distorted light in front of them. Your cultivation bases will be restricted in there. Remember, don't use any power, or it'll affect the stability of the interior. Dongfang Zhuangshi cautioned in a solemn voice. Lin and Dabai nodded at the same time, their hearts filled with excitement. Exploring and uncovering certain secrets would always bring about a certain kind of pleasure. Dongfang Zhuangshi walked into the faint gate of light and disappeared. Lin and Dabai followed closely behind him. After a series of visual changes, they appeared in a very strange yet familiar place. This is... Lin stood rooted to the spot, unable to conceal the shock on his face. Bright and enchanting sunlight shone down upon the earth, and a clear moat flowed past before them. There were willows by the river, creating a picturesque scenery, and several beautiful birds perched on the branches. There was a city wall that wasn't very large behind the moat, and there was also a city gate. There were soldiers stationed at the gate, and there were pedestrians and carriages below. However, the river was completely still, the wind was completely still, the willows and birds were completely still, the pedestrians and carriages were completely still, everything was completely still. This was the reason why Lin was astonished. This was like a world that had been frozen in time. As you can see, this is a world where time has been frozen. Dongfang Zhuangshi spoke in a low voice. His expression couldn't be seen, and only his slightly bleak figure could be seen. Come with me. Dongfang Zhuangshi led the way. This was the first time Lin had seen something like this, and he couldn't help but look around with great interest. There were words on the city gate, which read, Linggu City. They walked through the city gate to discover that the buildings within were identical to the ones in the vast land of blood. There were mushroom-shaped buildings with all types of beautiful colors and shapes. Many of the buildings had intricate plaques hanging from the top of the mushroom buildings, and some people were waving their hands as if they were yelling. As expected, this place is a reflection of the vast land of blood. However, one side is a beautiful scene, while the other is a scene of destruction, and Lin murmured to himself. Dabai wagged his snowy white tail from side to side, and his eyes widened with curiosity as he looked around. It saw a lone rock on the ground and casually kicked it, but it missed. It staggered and almost flipped over. And Lin caught sight of a fallen leaf flying through the air beside a tree, and he reached out to grab it, only to have his hand pass through the leaf, upon which his eyes widened again. This is clearly real. Why can't I touch it? Yes, everything here was extremely real, but he couldn't touch this kind of reality. Dongfang Zhuangshi replied, This is a world without time, so it's naturally different from ours, and Lin tried to use the vital energy of heaven and earth here, only to find that he couldn't even use vital energy. It was a very peculiar feeling, as if he had arrived in a world that didn't belong to him at all. He could only act as a bystander. All the flowers, birds, insects, fish, all of them were paintings in front of him. A painting that wouldn't fade, one that could be admired forever. Dongfang Zhuangshi continued to lead the way, and Lin was very curious where the middle-aged man was taking them. After walking for a while, the middle-aged man stopped in front of a mushroom house. This was a rather short mushroom house with the words, Miracle Hand Shop, hanging from the plaque. And Lin blinked. Was he going to find a doctor? The middle-aged man walked up the wooden steps and entered the house before stopping in front of a woman. A look of reminiscence appeared on his face for the first time as he stared at the woman before him with a dazed expression. And Lin turned to look at the woman. She appeared to be a doctor in a cream-colored dress, and she was applying for medicine with her nimble hands. She had bright eyes and white teeth, and there was a faint smile on her face. The sunlight outside shone upon her face, making her smile appear even more radiant and enchanting. It had to be said that this was a very beautiful woman. And Lin was looking at this woman with a hint of appreciation in his eyes. He then thought back to the woman that Dongfang Zhuangshi had mentioned. She seemed to have died from a sudden calamity, right? Could it be this woman in front of him? That was certainly a possibility. Especially after seeing the other side of the vast land of blood, this thought became even stronger. All of a sudden, his sea of vital energy rippled violently. To put it more accurately, It wasn't his sea of vital energy. Instead, it was in Kieran, who was in his sea of vital energy. He clasped a hand over his chest, and tears began to flow from his eyes. Lin. Chapter 873. Lin was completely dumbstruck. Wasn't this the woman that Dongfang Zhuangshi loved? Why wasn't Kieran crying? And Kieran was still crying. And for some reason, a sense of sorrow welled up in Lin's heart. What was going on? Lin's heart jolted with shock. Boom! At this moment, a massive wave of information surged into his mind. His vision darkened, and he felt as if the world around him were spinning as a sense of dizziness struck him on the brink of unconsciousness. A piercing light then swept toward him. He opened his eyes with great difficulty to discover that he was high up in the sky. There was a clear blue sky, as well as a boundless sea of crimson flames. Boom! A crimson phoenix spread its wings and blotted out the entire sky as boundless divine might exuded from its body. And Lin was feeling a little suffocated just from its aura alone. This was a true Tao integration stage mythological beast. And Lin also sprang into action. Or rather, he was forced into action. The Kieran's claws were imbued with the power of the destruction divine Tao, and they tore through the boundless sea of crimson flames before clashing with the crimson flaming phoenix. Rumble. This was an earth-shattering battle. Just the flames alone had incinerated an area with a radius of over 500 kilometers. Lin was a little dumbstruck. He felt like he had become a Kieran. That's right, he was the demonic blood Kieran. The most terrifying thing was that he could sense everything, but he couldn't control his own actions. Lin was astonished. He didn't know what was going on. However, this super-realistic experience still made his heart surge with excitement. He could cosplay as a Tao integration stage super mighty figure. How does that feel? And then his hand was severed, his head was burned, and his heart was punctured. All types of extremely terrifying pain almost tore his body apart, and he howled in agony. This was a hellish experience. Awesome I8*S. Help! What the hell is going on? Lin roared in his heart, but it was to no avail. This super-realistic experience was not affected by his consciousness. He was forced in a battle with the Crimson Phoenix. He was very familiar with the power unleashed by the Blood Phoenix. It was the mutant Blood Phoenix that he had encountered in the sinister spirit beast cesspool, Mystic Realm. Amidst the constant pain of battle, the only thing that could be comforted was that this character could accumulate battle experience and comprehend the power of the Tao realm. Both the demonic Blood Kieran and the mutant Blood Phoenix had extremely powerful Tao realm domains. The clash between the two of them gave Lin a profound sense of enlightenment. In particular, he had inherited the power of the mutant Blood Phoenix, and in Kieran had the Kieran Blood Jade. Their battle was like a master teaching him how to use his power. In the end, Lin, who was the demonic Blood Kieran, tore open the Blood Phoenix's body. The demonic Blood Kieran was also riddled with wounds from the attacks of the Blood Phoenix. The extremely high temperatures had almost incinerated its entire body, and it had sustained extremely severe injuries. Whoa, demonic Blood Kieran, I'm not done with you, just you wait. The Blood Phoenix let loose an almighty roar, and its body fused back together before it turned around and fled. Hee, Fire Boss, you don't want the Divine Time bead anymore. The Kieran held the dreamy, glassy bead in his hand as he chased after the Blood Phoenix with a cold smile on his face. The Blood Phoenix ignored him and fled with all its might. It was about to lose its life, so it had no time to think about treasures. The demonic Blood Kieran chased after the Blood Phoenix for several thousand more kilometers before it finally ran out of energy. Its extremely powerful aura had become extremely feeble, and its life force was like a candle flickering in the wind, as if it could die at any moment. I've gone too far, the demonic Blood Kieran murmured to itself. I almost lost my life in order to fight for the Divine Time bead. Thankfully, the outcome was a good one. The spatial magic tool had exploded, and all of the pills inside were gone, so it had to find a place to recover from its injuries. It continued to fly, but its speed became slower and slower. No, the life force of this body was fading away faster than it could recover. If things continued like this, it was going to die. The demonic blood Kieran's heart jolted with shock, and it began to frantically search for a place with abundant spiritual energy. It needed to replenish itself. It needed a large amount of extremely powerful life force medicine to recover from its injuries. Its energy was becoming weaker and weaker, and blood continued to flow from its body as its breathing became more and more feeble. In order to maintain its life force, the demonic blood Kieran shrunk its body to the size of a little puppy. Then, it used its unique instinct as a mythological beast to discover a spirit field somewhere outside the city. There was a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. It was as if a man who was about to die of thirst in the desert had encountered an oasis. The demonic blood Kieran was about to go crazy, and it used its last sliver of energy to destroy the restriction around the spirit field before devouring the spirit medicine growing on it in a frenzy. This spirit fruit is so delicious, so fragrant, so sweet. It can also replenish one's blood energy. This ginseng is also an extremely nutritious item. It's a little disgusting, but it's better to eat it in order to survive. This spirit medicine is also quite good. It's imbued with extremely powerful life force. I'll eat it. I'll eat it all. The Kieran seemed to have grasped onto its last hope, and it ate everything in its path like a wild boar digging up cabbages. At the same time, due to its severe injuries, its life force was still fading away, and extreme exhaustion was sweeping over it. And Lynn could feel the despair of slowly dying from being unable to make ends meet. Why is it still not enough to replenish its energy like this? Finally, the Kieran arrived at the very center of the spirit field. There lay a translucent fruit that was glowing with a red light. Gulp! Immortal fruit? It took a deep breath before using its last sliver of energy to charge toward the center of the spirit field. It would be able to survive as long as it ate the immortal fruit. Boom! The Kieran's head crashed into an invisible restriction. No! The Chelan stretched out its claws and wailed in despair at the immortal fruit that it could only see but not touch. It was unable to break through this restriction with its own power. It was done for. Right at this moment, a light, fragrant breeze blew past. A yellow figure appeared before the Kieran. And Lin raised his head and was greeted by the sight of a woman with exquisite features. Her jet black hair was tied into a ponytail, revealing her fair neck as she looked down at him. In the midst of his despair, a person suddenly appeared before him. His survival instinct made him so excited that he almost cried. The sunlight shone down on the woman's body, and she was as beautiful as an angel of salvation. "I beg you, save me. Give me that fruit." And Lin extended its claws and slapped the woman's white embroidered shoes as it begged. Then, in Lin's field of vision, a slap occupied his entire field of vision. Slap! A crisp sound erupted, accompanied by a scorching pain. "Save my A****s. Die." The woman's clear voice sounded, and Lin was struck by another wave of dizziness. In his daze, he seemed to be able to see the woman's body trembling with rage on the brink of death. Another slap, and he finally fainted in a story. Chapter 874. And Lin felt like he was going to die. In that instant, he thought back to his days of running under the setting sun. He had no regrets in his cultivation life, amid a murky haze. A faint medicinal aroma wafted toward him. He opened his eyes with great difficulty to find that he was lying on a bed with a fire burning beside him. I'm not dead. He was just about to get up when a searing pain shot through his body. And Lin let loose a pained cry as he cursed in his heart. "Stupid C***NT Kieran, don't you know you're injured? Why are you moving?" His actions were dictated, but his pain was shared. What a horrible experience. "You're awake?" At this moment, a pleasant voice sounded. A woman in a yellow dress made her way into the room and cocked her head to the side as she appraised Lin with a curious expression. "You're a Kieran?" The demonic blood Kieran was quite small, even smaller than a human. However, he raised his head with a proud expression. "That's right. I'm a legendary Kieran. Woman, you saved my life, didn't you? In that case, I won't hold it against you for slapping me. The woman chuckled coldly as she made her way toward the Kirin and raised a hand. Slap! A clean, crisp, and resounding slap landed once more. The Kirin's face instantly burned with a scorching sensation, and the terrifying force of the slap even reached his chest. The Kirin's eyes widened. I'll give you one more chance to organize your words. The woman smiled. Woman, you're playing with fire. The Kirin was a high and mighty mythological beast that could kill millions upon enraged. When had anyone ever dared to humiliate him like this? Another crisp slap to the face, and the air even let out a sonic boom. Slap! The Kirin was feeling extremely dizzy. Not only was his face in pain, but his entire body was also in excruciating pain. Unlin, the Kirin. You have one last chance. The woman smiled warmly as she raised a slender hand high into the air. I'm sorry. I was wrong. The Kirin lowered his head. Unlin, how humiliating. The woman's expression softened a little, and she said, This isn't something that can be resolved with just an apology. Do you know how many precious herbs you've destroyed in my spiritual field? The Qilin shook his head honestly. I don't know. You've eaten a total of 31 of my medicinal herbs. You'll have to compensate me for that, the woman said. Qilin's expression changed. I ate the medicinal herbs with my own ability. Well, why do you have to make me pay for it? The fiery slap arrived as expected. Qilin. Unlin, are you being reasonable? The Qilin's eyes widened. Slap. Another fierce slap to the face. You are the one who is unreasonable. I'll straighten out your twisted morality. The woman snorted coldly. Unlin was in despair. One was crazily attracting hatred, while the other was addicted to slapping faces. Have you ever considered how I, who was silently enduring the slaps, felt? The woman glared at the Qilin and said coldly, Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you're a Qilin. If it weren't for my kindness, I would have cut you up and sold you. Why would I waste my medicinal herbs to save you? By the way, in order to save your life, I also used 2 7th-grade immortal fruits and 18 spirit herbs. That has to be returned as well. The woman was still talking, but the Qilin didn't dare to say anything else in fear of being slapped again. The following days were a little more mundane. In order to recover, the Qilin endured the humiliation and drank the medicine brewed by the woman while sucking up to her with a cheeky smile. He was clearly very ferocious, but he relied on acting cute to survive. The woman was a soul creation stage pill, refinement master, and a soul formation stage cultivator, so her medical skills were naturally not all that bad. She quickly helped the Qilin survive. Time passed by one day at a time. In the following days, you'll only have to drink 1 bowl of the medicinal herbs I concocted a day. Woman, you're underestimating my abilities. I don't need to take any more medicine. Slap. The slap sounded for the 10,086th time. Be obedient. The woman's eyes narrowed into a gentle smile. The Qilin obediently opened his mouth. Unlin really couldn't understand why such a gentle big sister would be so fond of slapping people in the face. After that, the Qilin recovered a lot more quickly. It also finally began its life of taking care of the spirit farm to repay its debts. Since he had made a promise, he had to fulfill it. The slapping education on the sickbed had taught it many things. The Kirin was working very hard in this paradise, weeding weeds, unblocking vital energy, carving out spirit-gathering spell formations, and even using its own Kirin blood as fertilizer for the spirit plants. And Lin's eyes were blinded by the Kirin's work. The woman had a medical center in Lingu City, so she worked during the day and came back at night to brew medicine for the Qilin. The days were very mundane, and the Qilin's injuries also quickly recovered. One night, during mealtime, where's my medicine? The Qilin scratched its head with a perplexed expression. The woman smiled at the Qilin. Congratulations, as a doctor, I announce that you've recovered. You don't need to take medicine anymore. The Qilin faltered slightly upon hearing this before also smiling. I finally don't need to take medicine anymore. The spirit farm was extremely productive this time, and you've done a very good job taking care of it. Our debts have also been paid, and you're free now. You can leave. The woman continued with a smile. Oh, that's great. The Chelan smiled as well. It had finally come to an end. However, it felt like its heart was completely empty. By the way, you're quite powerful and talented. So why are you willing to live in a small city like this? You should go and see a bigger world. The Chelan couldn't help but ask. The woman shook her head with a smile. I feel like I'm quite happy living here. I'm free, and I'm far away from battle and conflict. I like this kind of life. The Chelan faltered slightly and didn't know what to say. It looked at the woman under the candlelight. She was so gentle and beautiful, and she was so beautiful and refined. She was like a kind and benevolent big sister who had seen through the world of mortals. However, it knew that this woman's slap was very painful. The Chelan was actually still confused about something, and it mustered up its courage. When you slapped me, weren't you afraid that a perfect and powerful mythological beast like me would kill you because of my bad temper? Pah! Another resounding slap landed on his face. The Chelan's face was burning with embarrassment. The woman chuckled coldly. How dare you? I'm sorry. The Chelan lowered its head. And Lin, by the way, when you're outside, don't bully people just because you're a mythological beast. You have to be a reasonable person. Understand? The woman cautioned. The Chelan nodded instinctively. All right, I'll be sure to be reasonable. If other beasts were to see the ferocious, demonic blood Chelan behaving like this, they would definitely be dumbfounded. They chatted about many things that night. The Chelan had never thought that a mythological beast like him would chat so much with a measly soul formation stage cultivator. He felt like there was a lot more he wanted to say, and there was no end to their conversation. The next day, they still bade farewell. Woman, if anyone bullies you, send a voice transmission to me. The Chelan tossed a voice transmission talisman toward the woman. All right, don't fight anymore. You looked so pitiful back then. What if you accidentally died? The woman advised with a dainty smile. The Chelan nodded before rising into the air. He flew further and further away until he could no longer see the woman's figure, nor could he see what the spirit field looked like. She was finally leaving. There was too much of a disparity between their cultivation bases. Their farewell today could be the last time they saw each other. 10,000 years passed in the blink of an eye for mythological beasts. But for soul formation stage cultivators, it could be the difference between life and death. The Chelan heaved a faint sigh as he looked at the vast expanse of land in the distance. After flying for a while, he couldn't help but lay a hand on his cheek. Sigh, it's just that after this farewell, she won't be able to slap me anymore. I really miss her slaps. A dejected expression appeared on the Chelan's face as his heart throbbed with pain. Lin. Uncle, did you expose some kind of weird fetish? She said that she wanted me to be a reasonable person, and I have done that. Next, I will be a person. The Chelan nodded, and with a shake of his body, he transformed into a rather handsome middle-aged uncle. And Lin was astonished. Uncle, are you sure you're not mistaken? That woman must have had too many interactions with other people and spilled the beans. But will I never get another chance? What if she's bullied? What if she's unhappy and wants to speak her mind, but can't find someone to talk to? And Lin's heart jolted upon hearing this. The Chelan was still murmuring to himself. All of a sudden, his eyes lit up, and he slashed his own arm with his finger. Splat! Blood sprayed forth. Gasp! That hurt. The pain was so real. A massive gash appeared on the middle-aged man's arm. And Lin, I'm injured. I'll go to the Miracle Hand Clinic to find her for treatment. I have to hurry or my wound will heal. The middle-aged man turned around and flew toward Lingu City without any hesitation. And Lin, Chapter 875. And Lin felt like his image as a middle-aged man was about to crumble. He had gone from the Kirin proud heavens to this adorably stupid middle-aged man. It was one thing for him to be stupid, but don't drag him down with you. In order to increase the sense of immersion, what was the real pain of his arm being cut off? He wasn't a masochist. All right, the 10,000 slaps were the same. How immoral. And Lin would most likely never forget that slap for the rest of his life. Miracle Hand Clinic. This was the most renowned clinic in Lingu City. Not only was Dongfang Mengjie beautiful, her medical skills were also unparalleled in the entire city, so there was an endless stream of patients coming to her clinic for treatment. Thankfully, this city was quite small. Otherwise, she really wouldn't be able to handle all of the patients. As per usual, she had left the medicine by her side and was preparing to brew it after she got home. But very quickly, she came back to her senses. That unreasonable fellow had already left. Dongfang Mengjie silently hid the medicine in a separate medicine cabinet. She couldn't quite describe what she was feeling right now. At this moment, a middle-aged man entered with a panicked expression as he clutched at his injured arm. "Doctor, save me. My arm is injured." Dongfang Mengjie immediately prepared emergency measures upon seeing this. She was just organizing her tools when her hands faltered. She raised her head to look at the man before her. He was quite handsome, but very unfamiliar. However, that wasn't the point. She wrinkled her intricate nose as she glanced at the middle-aged man again. The atmosphere suddenly fell silent. The man averted his gaze in a rare manner. "Doctor, what's wrong?" "Kiran?" Dongfang Mengjie suddenly asked. The man's eyes widened. "Huh? What did you say? You've never seen me before, have you?" "Huh. You're being reasonable." What a catchphrase. Dongfang Mengjie's eyes were as clear as autumn water, and a smile suddenly appeared on her face. The man stared blankly at her. Slap. A familiar and fiery slap landed again. The man shuddered. This was such a nostalgic feeling. Dongfang Mengjie placed her hands on her hips as she scolded in a crisp voice. "All right. You've only been gone for a short while, and you're already asking for a beating? You want to fight again, and you're trying to trick me? You have to be honest and trustworthy. Okay, if I don't slap you a few times, you won't learn your lesson." The man was stunned. He covered his face and said in surprise, "How? How did you find me?" "Hee hee, I saved you. How could I not know what your blood tastes like?" A smug look appeared on Dongfang Mengjie's face. "I smelled that familiar scent in your blood as soon as I got close to you. So even though you've changed your appearance and concealed your aura, I was still able to identify you." The man was shocked, and so was Enlin. Identification through blood? This ability was really awesome. A self-propelled humanoid DNA test? Then what about my hand? Having been recognized, the man stood awkwardly on the spot. "Sit down." Dongfang Mengjie glared at the man. "I'll bandage it for you." The man happily sat down and stretched out his arm. The woman's gentle and nimble hands touched his arm. The man looked at the woman's focused expression and felt as if he had returned to the time when they were in the small house in the spirit field. She was still so serious, so gentle, and her slap was still so moving. "By the way, who did you fight with this time?" Dongfang Mengjie asked with a frown. A phoenix," the man replied. "Phoenix? Is it beautiful?" "I'm not interested in it. Besides, it's a male." "Huh? What are you talking about?" "I'm asking you if a phoenix is beautiful. I've never seen a phoenix before, so I'm a little curious. Why are you answering that question?" Nothing." Dongfang Mengjie's eyes lit up as she looked at the man before her with a faint smile. "I've already recognized you, so why are you still maintaining your human form?" "Because I'm afraid that my original appearance will scare others, so I'll just do as the Romans do." The man was quite happy to have found a good excuse for himself. "I don't think you're scary. Also, your horns are very beautiful, and I quite like them. It would be a pity if they were to disappear just like that." "Beautiful? I can make them appear?" The man was a little excited. He had just heard a very important phrase. She liked them. Thus, the strange middle-aged man with Kirin horns was born. Good times were always short-lived, and the middle-aged man's arm was soon bandaged. "All right, I bandaged it up. You have to be more careful next time." Dongfang Mengjie stroked the red, glass-like Kirin horns on the man's head with a faint smile. The man nodded. He felt like there was no reason for him to stay here any longer. Then, "Goodbye." The man bade farewell. "Goodbye." Dongfang Mengjie smiled before continuing to treat other patients. The middle-aged man left. He laid a hand on the bandage on his arm with a content expression on his face. He still had a bunch of things to take care of in the sinister spirit beast cesspool, so he really was going to leave this time. Thus, the middle-aged man continued his life as a mythological beast. 1 month later, the middle-aged man missed her. He wanted to see her, but he couldn't find a good reason to do so. The middle-aged man pulled out the white bandage on his storage ring, and a thought suddenly occurred to him, and he slashed his calf with one hand, upon which blood gushed forth again and Lin F***CK off. Thus the two of them met again. The atmosphere was very harmonious, and they began to chat again. After his injuries were healed, the middle-aged man became even more powerful. After that, the middle-aged man began to mutilate himself again when he wanted to see Dongfang Mengjie. His injuries couldn't be the same, right? Otherwise, it would be too obvious. Thus, Enlin experienced the pain of having his arms and legs severed, his internal organs exploded, he was poisoned, his sea of vital energy was damaged, his meridians were damaged, and so on and so forth. If Enlin could control this body, he would definitely kill Dongfang Zhuangshi with his own 2 hands. Kiran, your injuries were really severe this time. Can't you pay more attention to your body? Dongfang Mengjie's brows furrowed. All right, I'll be more careful next time. The middle-aged man nodded. By the way, don't call me Kiran anymore. It's a little weird. Give me a human name. A human name? Dongfang Mengjie blinked in surprise. What type of name do you want? Anything. I'll just take your surname, the man replied. Take my surname. A blush appeared on Dongfang Mengjie's face, and her slender hand trembled slightly. Then, I'll call you Dongfang Zhuangshi. Dongfang Zhuangshi. The middle-aged man drew a sharp intake of breath. A sly smile appeared on Dongfang Mengjie's face as she explained, You're always having problems with your body, and you always come to me for treatment, so I'll give you a name that symbolizes good wishes. Think about it. Zhuangshi means that you're strong and sturdy, and it represents a type of vitality. It's imbued with the purest and truest emotions, and it's also compatible with the Tao of life. Furthermore, it's easy to understand and catchy. After the woman finished speaking, she didn't see any resistance from the middle-aged man. Instead, a joyful smile appeared on the man's face. So that's how it is. That's a really good name. I'll be called Dongfang Zhuangshi from now on. Dongfang Mengjie's lips gaped open, but she didn't know what to say. And Lin was astonished. So this was how he got his King name? At the end of the day, it was all because of his self-mutilation. This was probably what it meant to be, Kiran, Dongfang Mengjie said in a quiet voice. Please call me Zhuangshi, the middle-aged man replied with a solemn expression. Zhuangshi. Dongfang Mengjie paused for a moment before continuing. I've opened up a tea garden in the 100-flower field in the east, and I go there to sample tea whenever I have free time. If you're interested in tea, you can go there every month to have some tea. All of the tea is spirit tea, so it's not bad. Be more careful in the future, and don't get injured again. Dongfang Zhuangshi faltered slightly upon hearing this before a warm smile appeared on his face. All right, I'll be more careful in the future and try not to get injured again. And Lin was almost moved to the point of tears upon hearing this. My God, these 2 thin-skinned fellows with negative IQs had finally been enlightened. Chapter 876. This situation left the beast race powerhouses dumbfounded for a long time. All right, wait for me to come back to report the good news. After a while, it was still the same little pavilion. Do you want to go? The uncle asked. Another few loud slaps rang out on the spot. All right, the uncle's fighting spirit was ignited. Well, then don't go. There's nothing to see in the treasure light. The uncle comforted her gently. The immortal beast general was stunned. To expand our territory. The uncle was a little emotional. I'm not joking. The reason why I'm drinking so happily is because in the beginning, Dongfang Zhuangshi would still transform into a Kiran in the sinister spirit beast cesspool and a human in Lingu City. But now, no matter where he was, he liked to appear as a human. I like the wind and rain here. I like the tranquil and pleasant environment here. I like this feeling very much. Dongfang Mengjie smiled lightly. Of course I do. In the sinister spirit beast cesspool, he was the demonic blood Kiran who ruled over a territory and commanded all of the other beasts. She stopped for a long time, her eyes filled with anticipation. The middle-aged man said to Dongfang Mengjie with a solemn expression, "I'm going to participate in the Pill Tower's new Excellence Cup competition that's held once every 10 years. Do you still remember our previous agreement?" Dongfang Mengjie looked at the middle-aged man before pursing her lips into a smile. "Then I'll promise you one thing." It had been many years, and it seemed like there hadn't been any major breakthroughs. In fact, the gap between them was slowly closing. And Lin, the middle-aged man, was satisfied, but Dongfang Mengjie was so angry that she gnashed her teeth. The woman, she was originally a pill master, so she still had an appreciative attitude towards someone being able to enter the legendary pill refining holy land, the Pill Pagoda. The uncle didn't like it. He drank a few mouthfuls of tea and didn't feel as good as before. One day, Dongfang Mengjie suddenly mentioned that there was going to be a myriad sunset treasure light festival in a certain city in 5 days. At that time, treasured lights of all different colors would appear in the sky, creating a spectacular spectacle to behold. Logically speaking, why do we need to attack the 7 cities of the western region? The uncle frowned. Don't worry. Other than age and opportunism, everything else depends on strength. Then goodbye. However, the way the uncle wooed the girl was really unsightly. And Lin had already obtained an immeasurable amount of dark history regarding Dongfang Zhuangshi. It was exactly because of this that he didn't have any objections to Xiaolan's 100-year promise. The immortal beast general was stunned. What was there to reflect on? This was what they had always done. Speaking of which, wasn't attacking cities the most common thing for the beast race? What kind of reasoning was that? This was probably a fake Great Emperor Qilin, right? Whoosh. Outside the gazebo, the rain seemed to have grown heavier. Today, the city lord's son, Lu Wenguang, gave me flowers, the woman said with a smile. Entering the Pill Pagoda makes you very powerful. As long as I want to, I can also enter the Pill Tower. The uncle said seriously. For example, it was one thing to bring local specialties, but what the hell was with bringing the best snot delicacies of the beast cesspool? Most importantly, he's actually a core disciple of the Pill Tower. His alchemy skills are very impressive. A rare look of approval appeared on the woman's face. Uncle, actually I don't like tea either. The uncle still made time to come to the tea garden every month to drink tea. One morning, Lin thought to himself, this uncle will probably become a spirit-gathering, pinnacle stage pill refinement master in the future, right? How pitiful. The relationship between the two of them was a little strange. At the very least, they were good friends that transcended different races. That's not a good reason. You attack someone else's territory just to expand your territory. This is the behavior of a barbaric bandit. You better reflect on yourself. The uncle said angrily. Dongfang Mengjie never mentioned that so-called young Master Lu again. And Lin expressed that he understood this situation. It was very normal for cultivators to be in a relationship for hundreds of years. Their days passed by leisurely and carefree. I'll wait for you. Don't try to take advantage of me. After this incident, the relationship between the two of them returned to normal. The fragrance of the tea was also somewhat diluted by the rain. The uncle no longer harmed himself. Every month, he would go to the tea garden to drink tea with Dongfang Mengjie. In any case, the uncle's experiences were really hard to describe. In a small city on the southeastern border of the Kingdom of the 9 States, he was a gentle and polite uncle with a Qilin horn on his head. The misty rain shrouded her bright eyes in a layer of mist, like rippling autumn waters. The uncle also went to an elegant tea garden to drink tea. Dongfang Mengjie faltered momentarily before bursting into laughter again. The uncle chuckled. It's not that bad. The uncle faltered slightly upon hearing this, and his hand trembled slightly as a thought flashed through his mind. He dared to give her flowers? Kill him. Dongfang Mengjie raised her head and looked on as Dongfang Zhuangshi disappeared into the clouds. The courtyard was stained red, and it was still drizzling. A smile appeared on the woman's face. In reality, a carefree mythological beast like him didn't really know how to appreciate tea. Whether it tasted good or not depended entirely on his mood. The woman's eyes lit up and she stared unblinkingly at the man before her. I don't really want to. There's no one to go with me, so I can't be bothered to move. The woman sighed lightly, and Lin couldn't bear to watch this anymore. The uncle paid no heed to the dejected immortal beast. It was time for him to meet that woman again, so he had to make some preparations. She couldn't help but want to laugh when she thought of the mythological beast's fighting spirit competing with the younger generation. What if I can enter the pill pagoda? The uncle looked at the woman. He suddenly recalled that the woman wanted him to be a reasonable and cultured person, so he had to be graceful and not impulsive. Doubtful Mingjia was still wearing her cream-colored dress, and she was fiddling with the tea set with her nimble hands. The sound of tea falling onto the table was like the sound of jade and stone falling onto the table. The woman faltered upon hearing this. Don't joke around. Every time I see you here, you have a lot of fun drinking. Oh, the woman rested her chin on her hand as a different light shone in her eyes. He's handsome and has very good aptitude. He's already at the soul formation stage. Emperor Kirin, we've already conquered the 7 cities of the Western Realm and slaughtered all of the beast tribe resistance. A return to Void Stage, Immortal Beast General half-knelt on the ground as he reported the situation. You? The woman couldn't help but burst into laughter. Don't even mention your pill refinement aptitude. It's impossible. Goodbye. Oh, who is he? I don't know much about him. The middle-aged man smiled. He seemed to prefer being a human, a reasonable human. After all, there were mighty figures who would accompany each other for tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. How could he become Tao partners after only 1 or 2 years? That was an irresponsible attitude toward one's relationship. Their relationship slowly flowed into each other's hearts. I heard that young master Lu doesn't like to drink tea. Otherwise, I would be able to invite him to my tea garden. What a pity. Dongfang Mingjie snuck a glance at the man before her as she spoke. There was a hint of anticipation in her eyes, but also a hint of nervousness. Chapter 877. As a Tao integration stage mythological beast, Dongfang Zhuangshi had no problem disguising himself as a human under 30 years of age. No one would be able to detect his true identity and age. After silently practicing alchemy for so long, he finally had a chance to show off his skills. The uncle was still very excited. Most importantly, he had to fight for that bet. At the alchemy competition, the uncle's level was considered outstanding among the many alchemy geniuses. Out of over 10,000 people, he was ranked 26th. He had been invited to become a disciple of the Pill Tower, and he had even obtained a talisman that could prove his identity. No one would have thought that the Qilin Great Emperor, whose name had shaken the entire continent, would quietly participate in a competition of this level. No one would have thought that he would smile like a 200-pound fatty just because he had obtained the status of a Pill Tower disciple. Haha, I am now a disciple of the Pill Tower. I can head to Lingu City now. Dongfang Zhuangshi's heart was racing as he gripped the yellow token in his hand. Lingu City. It was still raining. For a small city in the southeast of 9 regions, it was normal to rain in summer. Lingu City was very quiet, and only the sound of heavy rain could be heard. Dongfang Zhuangshi had yet to enter the city, and he was already panicking. His extremely powerful perception allowed him to discover that there was no longer any life in the city. No way, you must have left. You're not in this town. Dongfang Zhuangshi murmured in a low voice as his body trembled with fear. What came into view was a ruined city. The city walls were broken, and the city was in ruins. The ground was littered with corpses that were shrouded in a deathly aura. Some of them were humans, while others were pitch black and featureless. They were from the Black Hand race with 4 arms and 2 feet. The heavy rain washed away the blood, leaving only a faint smell of blood. He wandered aimlessly in the city and saw many familiar faces. They lay quietly on the ground, some with hideous expressions, some with despair and fear. Dongfang Zhuangshi didn't dare to use his divine sense, and he was like an idiot who was burying his head in the sand. The sky was dark and gloomy. The white silhouette was like a ghost moving slowly in the city. Unknowingly, he had stopped in his tracks. He knelt on the ground and slowly hugged that cold and hard body. The man hugged her very tightly, as if he was trying to stop something, trying to salvage something. You said that you would wait for me. Why didn't you run away? The man choked with sobs. No one answered him. The woman's eyes were tightly shut, and her vitality had long been severed. A ghastly bloody hole appeared on the cream-colored silk dress. She curled up her body. She seemed to be in pain and cold before she died. Pa! 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 Resounding slaps sounded in the dense rain. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I didn't protect you well. Hit me. Quick, slap me. Dongfang Zhuangshi roared as he slapped his own face over and over again. Tears flowed down his twisted face as if he had gone mad. An item fell from the other hand of the woman with a crisp sound. Dongfang Zhuangshi detected a familiar energy fluctuation. He picked up the item with trembling hands. It was a pair of exquisite red jade pendants. It was obvious that they had been nurtured for some time. The energy on them was rich and pure. There were elegant words on the jade pendant. Half of it was Mengjie, and the other half was Zhuangshi. Hee, I'm so stupid, so stupid. Why didn't I say so earlier? I really don't like drinking tea. It's bland and astringent. How could I like it? But I like you. I really like you. I like everything I drink when I'm with you. The man chuckled foolishly as his clear eyes gradually became murky and bloodthirsty. A violent aura erupted from his body, and it felt as if the entire sky were about to collapse. The Black Hand tribe, is it? Let's be honest. They killed the person I love. Then I should annihilate their entire tribe. Boom! A red pillar of light soared into the sky, and heaven and earth began to tremor and crack. The dark clouds in the sky dissipated and were replaced by a boundless sea of blood. A red shooting star crashed into the Black Hand tribe continent in the southeastern region of the Kingdom of the Nine States. The demonic blood Kirin appeared, and an earth-shattering massacre ensued. Blood stained the entire continent, and the anguished wails of billions of Black Hand tribe beings erupted into the heavens. Countless living beings were sacrificed, and the heavens mourned as a rain of blood fell for over 100 days. Many Dao integration stage super mighty figures stared at the Black Hand tribe continent with dumbstruck expressions. There was only one thought in their minds, and that was that the demonic blood Kirin had gone insane. The demonic blood Kirin had indeed gone insane. Dongfang Mengjie was his medicine, and she had transformed him into a polite and reasonable human. But now, the medicine was gone, and he could only revert back to that bloodthirsty monster that regarded all living beings as ants. A large power on the Tai Chu continent with billions of living beings within its territory was sacrificed in an extremely brutal manner by the demonic blood Kirin. Even the Dao integration stage Black Hand Emperor was torn to shreds by the demonic blood Kirin. No one knew why. How did two forces that had nothing to do with each other become mortal enemies? Even though there were many suspicious points, this didn't stop this from becoming a super sensational event that rocked the entire Tai Chu continent. Dongfang Zhuangshi's entire body was stained with blood, and he walked into the deathly, silent city before half-kneeling before the woman. Mengjie, I've avenged you. He pulled out a crimson bead, which was imbued with boundless life force energy. After that, he pulled out a dreamy, translucent bead. This was a divine tool, the bead of time. There was a river of light surging within it, as if there were countless possibilities within it. Using the entire Black Hand tribe as a blood sacrifice and using the divine tool, the bead of time, as the price, can you reverse time? Dongfang Zhuangshi murmured to himself as he crushed the divine tool, the bead of time, without any hesitation. Boom! The crimson bead flew toward the center of the city before glowing with a scintillating light. A paramount power enshrouded the entire small city. After sacrificing a divine tool, the power of time also erupted forth. Black and white light surged through the city as boundless power sucked in all living beings, and even the great Tao of heaven and earth resonated with it. On the ground below, raindrops began to converge before returning to the sky. The sky began to reverse, and Dongfang Zhuangshi saw many scenes in that instant. He saw the Black Hand tribe setting up the formation, the Black Hand tribe brutally slaughtering the soldiers and cultivators on the city wall, and the scenes of Dongfang Mengjie dying from exhaustion after being surrounded by the Black Hand tribe powerful beings in order to protect the residents of the city. Time continued to reverse. Dongfang Zhuangshi saw a small, peaceful city bathed in warm sunlight. He saw a woman in the miracle hand shop who would occasionally nurture a jade pendant with her hands while looking up into the sky with anticipation in her eyes. The scenes finally froze on the woman with a warm smile on her face. She held a medicine in her hand, but she seemed to be thinking about something in her heart. The power of the divine tool, the beat of time, had been exhausted. Mengjie, Dongfang Zhuangshi extended a hand toward the woman's face, and his heart rate began to accelerate as his body trembled with excitement and anxiety. His hand passed through the woman's face, but he was unable to touch her. A bitter expression appeared on the man's face. Even though time has been reversed, and all living beings in this world have also been reversed, is it still unable to merge with the original timeline? It's all right. I'll definitely find a way to save you from this world. Dongfang Zhuangshi stowed this city that had been frozen in time into the crimson bead. He rose into the air and flew back to the sinister spirit beast cesspool. Along the way, a huge pair of eyes suddenly appeared in the sky. Demonic blood Kirin, why did you slaughter all of the living beings on the Black Hand tribe continent? Each and every word was like the wrath of the heavenly Tao, making Dongfang Zhuangshi tremble with fear. They killed the person I love, so why can't I slaughter their entire tribe? Dongfang Zhuangshi stared directly into the eyes, and even though his entire body was trembling from head to toe, he remained resolute and unyielding. The conflict between our two tribes should not affect the entire tribe, so why are you so unreasonable? Heh, I'm an unreasonable beast to begin with. Your actions have severely impacted the balance of the continent, and you will be punished cruelly. The voice in the sky was extremely cold, but it was as if the heavens were pronouncing judgment. The dazzling power of the heavens made Dongfang Zhuangshi almost unable to do anything. Then let's fight. If I were scared of you, I wouldn't. Boom! A series of violent explosions rang out. The power was like a meteorite crashing into Dongfang Zhuangshi's body, instantly tearing it apart. Everything was plunged into darkness. Chapter 878. Enlin was a little perplexed, and he recalled the celestial Thearka's words from time to time. The fact that cultivators didn't chase after stars only meant that they weren't outstanding enough. However, the lights slowly reappeared. Wait, Enlin suddenly said. If he doesn't want to be born, then he has to intervene in that world, right? If he doesn't change the course of the world, then how is he going to prevent himself from being born? If he changes the course of the world, then even if he kills a sperm, karma will still appear. Enlin didn't feel any heartache when he saw Dongfang Mengjie again. Enlin nodded. Ever since Sword Immortal Ming Yuan broke through to the Return to Void stage, his understanding of this world had become even more profound, and he switched to a Tao spell theory class instead. They all wanted to see what this legendary figure of the university looked like. Enlin nodded with genuine gratitude. Thank you, Uncle Dongfang. The middle-aged man set up a spell formation around the vast land of blood and sucked on Enlin's breath before setting off on a journey to recover his body with the groundhog and gluttony. What is karma? To put it in simpler terms, karma is the connection between all things. I have karma with all of you. When I do something, it produces a certain result. This is the most basic form of karma, and that result will become the cause of a certain event, thereby leading to another result. Sigh, there's still a long way to go. In the past, I thought that Tao integration stage true gods were invincible beings. Hence, never underestimate the connection between yourself and the world. The world will change because of our lives, and this change is boundless and eternal. A huge tongue stuck out and swung towards his face. This was his life as a fourth-year cultivator. Mundane, carefree, and carefree. Hence, karma is boundless. Some people say that one can ascend and transcend after severing all karma with the world, but I don't think that's possible. It was like the president of a Fortune 500 company in the mortal world being a F***King University student. Who could compare to that? Thus, he got to know Dongfang Zhuangshi. Tina faltered slightly upon hearing this. This made him feel like death wasn't something to be afraid of. And Lin nodded with an obedient expression. Was it possible to reverse time? After witnessing Dongfang Zhuangshi sacrifice his divine tool to reverse time, he wasn't going to say that it was impossible to reverse time in the entire world. This was especially true for the new batch of juniors. With respect and curiosity, they pretended to pass by the hallway of Year 4's Class 1 after class. There were only 100 steamers of buns for sale, but there were thousands of students who came to watch. This had broken his record of selling steamed buns, which also showed how terrifying his popularity was. Think about it. If a mighty being reaches a certain level and can reverse the flow of time in the entire world, turning time back to before he was born, then this world will no longer have him born. Wouldn't that be the same as erasing his karma from this world? Tina whispered. Speaking of which, even if that mighty being is so awesome, he still can't solve the hole in the sky. When Lin heard this, he felt that it made sense. Who would have thought that a Dao integration stage, super mighty figure like Uncle Dongfang would be crushed by a single palm from that being? Dao is endless. Sword Immortal Ming Yuan was in high spirits as he explained the karma of cultivators. His return created a massive stir at Xiaoxian United University, and Lin didn't find this strange. To Dongfang Zhuangshi, he could stare dumbly for several years without any problems, let alone a few days. And Lin rubbed his head and crawled up from the ground. After a short while, they left the vast land of blood. Oh, right. And Lin, if you dare to leak any information about me, don't blame me for being rude. Dongfang Zhuangshi suddenly spoke with a serious expression as he looked at Lin. According to Lin's explanation, it seemed like there really was no way to cleanse his karma with this world. And Lin returned to the university and continued his ordinary cultivation life. Under the sunlight, the woman's gentle smile remained as warm as ever, as if time had not left any traces on her face. 2 days? Dabai secretly told Lin that ever since Lin had fallen unconscious, Dongfang Zhuangshi had been staring at the woman this entire time. And Lin's attention was gradually drawn to this conversation. This was quite interesting. Within his sea of vital energy, and Kieran also became extremely quiet, as if he had already let go of his worries, leaving behind only a hint of melancholy and melancholy. The next day, Dabai ignored Steam Bun and reopened his shop. How long was I unconscious? And Lin asked. Perhaps this was what it meant to never grow tired of each other. Because no matter what you do, karma will continue. You can wave your hand, and flowers may bloom in some corner of the world because of you. Even if you die, the world will still change in a certain sense because of your appearance. This change in karma will continue endlessly from cause to effect, and from effect to cause, never to be severed. Jine and Lin, I don't think there's anything wrong with Master Ming Yuan's statement that severing all karma and transcending is possible, Tina suddenly said. Oh, why do you think that's not right? And Lin was surprised. Dongfang Zhuangshi replied with a smile. Not for long, only about 2 days. He had exposed the secret to Lin in order to rid his body of the Kirin blood jade. Master Ming Yuan's lectures are so awesome. Tina sat on Lin's shoulder with her hands supporting her cheeks as she looked up at the man on the stage with reverence in her eyes. Is this why you brought me here? And Lin asked. On the podium. Big brotherin', you're finally awake, woof. He opened his eyes and was greeted by the sight of a huge head and a pair of round eyes. There were simply too many legends about Lin. In any case, everything returned to normal. Everything fell into darkness. And Lin faltered upon hearing this. He felt like many years had passed. Dongfang Zhuangshi stared at the beautiful woman before him with an infatuated expression. Just her identity as the sect leader of the 4-9 Immortal sect was enough to attract countless fans. It had to be said that her lectures were quite outstanding. Thus, the philosophical discussion between the two of them concluded, and Lin was surrounded like a giant panda, making him feel as if he were a mascot rather than a legendary figure in the school. And Lin felt as if his body had been torn apart, and the excruciating pain made his soul tremble. Dongfang Zhuangshi nodded. The Kirin Bloodjade is a manifestation of my past body in Tao realm. Tell it to let go of its obsession and everything related to it so that I can bear its burden. This is why I brought you here. He would remember this favor. He turned to look at the woman beside the medicine cabinet again. Slurp. However, after thinking about it, he felt like something wasn't quite right. And Lin looked out the window at his juniors who coincidentally happened to pass by, but they were all staring at him with scorching eyes. He didn't feel the slightest bit proud of himself. Instead, he sighed with emotion. Dabai was extremely excited. In this world, the karma that he had created was eternal, and the meaning of his life hadn't disappeared into the river of time. Chapter 879. One morning, after selling his stuffed buns, Lin applied for leave and went to Do Shui Palace. He met Ishi again. Ishi had grown a little rounder after not seeing him for a while. Brother Ishi, I'll get straight to the point. How much is the cheapest divine pill? And Lin got straight to the point. Ishi's eyes widened as he drew a sharp intake of breath. Brother and Lin, you've already reached such a high level of mastery in pill consumption. You've already started eating divine pills. And Lin's expression darkened slightly. What the hell do you mean by eating pill? This is an independent cultivation realm that I've set for our pill consumption division. Perhaps after a period of development, we'll be able to form our own division, Ishi said excitedly. And Lin waved his hands with a headache. Let's get back to the topic at hand. I just want to ask about the price of divine pills. Time waited for no man. It was time for his plan to progress to the return to void stage. There was no hope for him to obtain cultivation methods for now, and divine tools were also hard to find. Thinking about it now, the only thing he could do now was to work on divine pills. Divine pills. It's actually very difficult to set a price for them because the ingredients are hard to find. However, divine pills require divine rank herbs and fruits as ingredients, so the price will definitely not be cheap. Ishi paused for a moment before continuing. The cheapest divine pills I've seen cost at least several tens of millions of spirit stones. Pill refinement masters won't accept this kind of business without at least 100 million spirit stones as a guarantee. And Lin grabbed onto Ishi's hand upon hearing this. Brother, do you trust me? Ishi nodded with a solemn expression. I trust you. And Lin was ecstatic. But I don't know how to refine divine pills, Ishi replied honestly. And Lin's chest constricted. You're the top pill refinement master of the Celestial Court's Do Shui Palace. Ishi rolled his eyes. So what if I'm a top pill refinement master? I'm just a measly supreme, final stage pill refinement master. And Lin's lips twitched. A measly supreme, final stage pill refinement master? If that group of people from the Pill Pagoda heard you say this, they would definitely explode and beat you up. Ishi shook his head. Divine pills are even more difficult to refine than breaking through to the Tao integration stage. In any case, I've never heard of any pill refinement masters below the Tao integration stage who can refine pills of this caliber. Not even Chang'e? And Lin asked. Ishi choked upon hearing this. Apart from Chang'e, she's way too freakish. She's already at the half-step Tao, bestowing realm and pill refinement. So she should be able to refine low-rank divine pills, right? And Lin's interest was aroused, and he said with a curious expression, what realm is the Tao bestowal realm? It's complicated to explain. To put it simply, after an alchemist's alchemy skills reach the pinnacle, he attempts to achieve a breakthrough. Thus, he imbues the alchemy pills with a higher level of comprehension. Bestowing the Dan to achieve the Tao, combined with the refinement of divine-level materials, the pill that is born can be called a divine pill. You can say that the same type of divine pill refined by different alchemists will result in different effects. This is because their Tao is different. Ishi's explanation made sense, and Lin felt like his horizons had been greatly broadened. So you're saying that I have to find Chang'e? And Lin murmured. My master is fine too. Ishi patted his round belly with a smug expression. Oh wait, it should be his chest. It's not wrong to call it his belly. This was because the line between his chest and belly was no longer obvious in his eyes. Your master? Your master is a very busy man. I don't think it's a good idea to trouble him. Lin was a little hesitant. It's all right, as long as the money is in place. Prepare a few $100 million, and my master will definitely come. Ishi was still brimming with confidence. Lin, that was the world of super tycoons, and poor people like Lin could only stay away from them. He thought about it for a moment before deciding to go to Chang. After all, it was easier to talk to someone he knew. Thus, Lin bade farewell to Ishi and traveled to the Moon Palace through the Celestial Court's teleportation spell formation. A dark night surrounded by stars. A streak of light flashed past, and Lin arrived at a continent that was glowing with a faint silver moonlight. He couldn't help but take a deep breath as the faint fragrance of osmanthus wafted toward him. The fragrance of osmanthus flowed into his body, and it was as if a pair of gentle hands were caressing his meridians, making his entire body feel extremely comfortable. What a nice place, and Lin couldn't help but praise. He arrived at the gate of the Moon Palace and stopped in front of the sign that stated that men and dogs were not allowed to enter. And Lin pulled out his voice transmission talisman with a hint of uneasiness. Not long after, a clear and cold voice with a hint of laziness was heard. Hello, Lin, Big Dumpling, what's up? Lin, what does Big Dumpling mean? A new nickname? I just woke up. It's Sect Leader. Lin was a little apologetic. I don't deserve to be called Sect Leader. You can just call me Sect Leader. Chang, beep, beep, beep. The voice transmission talisman was cut off. Gasp. Only now did Lin come to his senses and realize who he was talking to. This was the Moon Palace leader, the #1 pill refinement master of the Celestial Court, Chang. He was used to being cheeky to others, and now he was flexing in front of Chang. Lin cursed himself for being a pig. He couldn't even compare to Zhu Beiji. He braced himself and tried to contact Chang Yi again. Thankfully, he wasn't blacklisted, and the call connected. What's up? Chang Yi asked in a cold voice. I'm outside the Moon Palace, and I need your help with something. And Lin replied with a sincere expression. Is it urgent? The woman's voice was as cold as the moon. It's not very urgent. And Lin hesitated momentarily before replying. Why don't you jump out of the green duckweed when your heart is free? A gentle voice sounded, and Lin was dumbfounded. What? Sigh. The woman heaved a faint sigh. Life is like a traveler on a long journey. There's no need to wait for the moon. Why don't you hold the cup in your hand tightly? And Lin opened his mouth, but his mind was completely blank. He suddenly recalled the horror of being dominated by Chang Yi's hipster mentality. F***CK. I don't understand a single word. And Lin's eyes turned red. He couldn't even understand a single word. How could he communicate normally? Support. He needed strong support. He immediately unleashed his water clone technique and ran off into the distance with another voice transmission talisman before calling Su Qianyun. In a situation like this, only Su Qianyun, who understood Chang Yi, could save him from this dire situation. Su Qianyun was still able to use her powerful language comprehension skills to chat with Chang, even when she was suffering from hipster mentality. This scene was deeply engraved in Lin's mind. She was definitely someone he could rely on, and Lin was touched by his own resourcefulness. Fortunately, he had a backup version of the voice transmission talisman, and fortunately, he knew the water clone technique as well as Su Qianyun. Otherwise, he really would be at his wit's end. The voice transmission talisman was quickly connected, and Lin #2 relayed Chang Yi's words to Su Qianyun. Su Qianyun knew that this was an urgent matter, so she didn't ask any questions and began to explain. For example, the first sentence was, "Why the F***CK are you looking for me if you're not in a hurry?" And Lin broke out in a cold sweat. The second sentence was, "It's fine if you don't understand. Life is fleeting, and the things in front of you are the most important. There's no need to pursue illusory things. You should go back to your business." She was asking him to leave, and Lin hadn't recovered yet. Perhaps because he didn't reply for a long time, Chong, he added another sentence. The general meaning was, "Why aren't you talking? If it's not urgent, I'm hanging up." After Su Qinyun finished translating, and Lin's voice transmission talisman had already been hung up. Beep, 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 and Lin. Chapter 880. And Lin stared blankly at the voice transmission talisman in his hand. F***CK. She hung up again. No, Chong, he was always acting like a hipster, and there was no way to communicate with her. Even with Su Qinyun's help, the lack of communication was still a source of irritation. Su Qinyun, do you have any solution for Chong, Yi's hipster illness? And Lin number 2 asked. A mellow voice sounded. Yes, big sister Chong Yi is most likely like this because she has something on her mind, or she has encountered an obstacle in her cultivation, or she is feeling down in her life and is feeling sensitive and melancholic. The solution to this problem is either to help her or to divert her attention. And Lin felt like it would be too difficult to help her solve her problem, but diverting her attention was a piece of cake. With his charisma and eloquence, how could he not be able to do this? All he had to do was amplify one of her emotions and overwhelm the other. He continued to use his aura to activate the voice transmission talisman. This time, he waited and waited, but the call didn't connect. And Lin, I've already drawn my saber, and you're not going to accept it? And Lin refused to give up and continued to try to contact Chong Yi's aura. Finally, after much effort, the voice transmission talisman was connected. Ruo Fengshi? No, the woman yelled, and Lin's lips twitched, and he ignored Chong Yi's bullsh *T. Celestial Maiden Chong Yi, I brought you something very interesting from the sinister spirit beast cesspool. Sigh. The woman heaved a forlorn sigh, and Lin finally understood what she was trying to say. Was it still not working? Everyone said that curiosity was the strongest human desire, but why didn't it work when it came to Chong Yi? He gritted his teeth. I heard someone is calling you a stupid C***. The voice transmission talisman fell silent for a moment. Chong Yi who? And Lin took a deep breath. Stupid C***. Chong Yi and Lin gulp, and Lin couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. He had thrown caution to the wind. Since curiosity could not divert Chong Yi's attention, he would let anger do it. No matter how sad you are, when someone taunts you, you want to hit them instead of continuing to be sad. For example, if someone posted on their WeChat moments that they lost money in the stock market today, or that they broke up, you only needed to post a ha 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 comment. I guarantee that they will all walk out of that sorrowful state, and you will silently bear all the sins and evil. Although you will be reviled by others, you will still be doing something merciful. This is greatness. The hospital bed was white and soft, the air conditioning was cool, and the Wi-Fi was very smooth, so there was nothing to worry about. Sure enough, a peerlessly beautiful celestial maiden dressed in a moon-white silk dress appeared before him. Her jade-like face was covered in frost, and she raised her slender and fair hand. And Lin's pupil shrank. Wait, I just Boom! The earth tremored violently, and the power of the moon surged forth, bending all of the laurel trees in a radius of 5 kilometers. And Lin was slapped into the ground, and his body created a circular crater. Are you itching for a beating? Can we just talk nicely? Chong Yi's dress fluttered in the wind, and her voice was as cold as a bucket of cold water. And Lin's chest constricted as he cursed in his heart. You were the one who didn't want to talk nicely first. He touched his flushed face. It was burning hot, and a familiar feeling arose in his heart. Dongfang Mengjia's slap also seemed to be this simple and violent, and Lin stood up with difficulty and immediately straightened his posture. I'm sorry, Fairy Chong. Please forgive me for my earlier words. I'm here to ask for your help in refining a divine pill. Chong Yi still wanted to get angry, but her expression finally shifted upon hearing about the divine pill. You want me to refine a divine pill? What type of pill do you want to refine? Who is it for? And Lin was extremely excited. He finally understood what Chong Yi was saying. It's for me, so I'm not picky. I'll take whatever divine pill is cheap and easy to refine. He knew that most divine pills were priceless just in terms of medicinal ingredients. The price fluctuated greatly, and one would even have to find the ingredients themselves. It could take decades or even centuries to complete the pill from commission to completion. And Lin didn't want to wait that long, so he wanted the simplest method. Chang Yi's brows perked up with a speechless expression. Young people these days eat divine pills so casually, and Lin smiled. That way, both of us won't have to worry. Everyone will be happy. Chang pondered for a moment before replying in a slow voice. There are 3 types of divine pills. I've gathered quite a lot of materials, but there is only one that suits your requirements. All right, then I'll take it. And Lin snapped his fingers. Let me finish first, Chang interrupted. This divine pill is a little special. How is it special? And Lin was taken aback. Chang Yi waved her white moon sleeve in the air, and a pill glowing with rainbow divine light appeared in the air. Anyone who saw would have the urge to eat it. Immediately afterward, the divine light released by the pill condensed and formed a rainbow dress in the air. As it fluttered in the wind, it was dreamy and beautiful. And Lin's mouth fell open as he stared blankly at the rainbow dress in the air. Chang Yi said, this pill is called the Rainbow Divine Tao Pill. It can enhance the user's 5 elements and yin and yang energy. However, after consuming the pill, the user will be enchanted by the rainbow dress for 10 years due to the effects of the pill. Enchanted by the rainbow dress? This is what you meant by meeting the requirements? And Lin's eyes widened in astonishment. A faint smile appeared on Chang Yi's face. The medicinal power is vast, but it won't explode. It's also extremely powerful and suits your divine body. Aside from a few special symptoms, it's actually already very compatible. And Lin clasped a hand over his chest and repressed the urge to throw up blood. Your special symptoms are forcing me to wear female clothes. I'll have to wear female clothes for 10 years. And I'll have to wear female clothes in such a seductive manner. Do you think I'm shameless? Do you think I'm a pervert? Chang Yi pursed her lips. You don't even dare to wear female clothes. And you say you love cultivating? And Lin's lips twitched upon hearing this. All right. Chang Yi was finally satisfied at the sight of Lin's conflicted and aggrieved expression. Actually, there's a way to resolve this. I'll concoct an additional immortal pill for you to absorb, but you'll have to pay an additional 1 million spirit stones. No problem. No problem as long as you don't wear female clothes. And Lin heaved a sigh of relief. In any case, it was a good thing that his moral integrity was preserved. Then it's settled. Let's refine the Rainbow Divine Tao Pill. Chang Yi nodded. All right, I've gathered most of the ingredients, but there are still some that I have to search for. The down payment will be 100 million spirit stones. And Lin, Chapter 881. A deposit of 100 million spirit stones? What the F***CK? She was asking for in Lin's life. What is it? Chang Yi was perplexed. Can you make an exception for me? I don't have much cash right now. And Lin rubbed his hands together sheepishly. Chang Yi's brows furrowed. How much do you have? I need a lot of money to gather materials. I have 5 million spirit stones in my storage ring. And Lin replied. Chang Yi. The woman turned to leave. Don't. Celestial Maiden Chang Yi, can you hold off on the money? You know how trustworthy I am. And Lin tried to persuade her to stay. Chang Yi's footsteps faltered, and she tilted her head to the side. Trustworthiness and money are 2 different things. And Lin faltered upon hearing this. You know about the 4-9 Immortal sect, right? I'm the sect leader of such a big sect. Don't you believe in my ability to make money? If you refine a divine pill, I'll definitely be able to raise 100 million spirit stones. Chang Yi blinked. 4-9 Immortal sect? The Grandmaster Construction Cultivator has mentioned it to me, right? So you have to believe me. A smile appeared on Lin's face. The Grandmaster Construction Cultivator said that your sect is scarily stingy. It's even more powerful than first-rate sects, and even more stingy than third-rate sects. Chang Yi continued, and Lin's smile froze on his face. F***CK off. It was one thing for the Grandmaster Construction Cultivator to mock him in front of him, but how could he tell anyone else about this? He was going to F***CK her up next time. And Lin had nothing to say. He didn't have any cash, and now that he had brought out his sect, no one would believe him. What else could he do? Just as he was in despair, he suddenly changed the subject. However, if you can make me feel better, I could consider relaxing the conditions of your deposit. To make you feel better? Lin was taken aback for a moment. Then he instinctively rummaged through his storage ring, thinking of what he could give to Chang. Seeing this, Chang immediately shook her head and said, I don't need material pleasures. I don't lack money. And Lin was stunned again. She didn't even want the gift. How was he supposed to make her happy? Material things don't work? Could it be that he wanted spiritual happiness? How about this? I'll tell you a few jokes. And Lin said cheerfully. Chang Yi's clear and gentle eyes finally brightened a little. Are you telling a joke? Interesting. Then tell me a poignant love story. And Lin stood rooted to the ground. Then, am I telling a joke or a poignant love story? I'll tell you a poignant love story that's a little funny. Chang. He pondered for a moment before she said coldly. And Lin sucked in a breath of cold air. What the F***CK? Who could tell him how a F***king poignant love story was funny? If she wanted to tell a joke, then tell a joke. But Chang Yi's unreasonable request was F***king, raising the difficulty of a joke to hell. And Lin was about to have a mental breakdown. Why was life so difficult? For some reason, a thought flashed through his mind, and he thought of Dongfang Zhuangshi. All right, then I'll tell you a poignant and hilarious love story. And Lin said solemnly. Chang. He nodded and looked at Lin with a hint of anticipation in her beautiful eyes. And Lin continued. The story took place in a tea shop. A male scholar would come to the tea shop every morning to drink tea. Thus, the young woman who was responsible for brewing tea recognized the scholar. Time passed by peacefully and elegantly. Day after day, the two of them became familiar with each other. One morning, is there something on your mind? The scholar suddenly asked as he sipped his tea. The young woman, are you familiar with young Master Tang? The scholar, family friends. The young woman, then you can come with him next time. The scholar's heart convulsed, and his tea suddenly became tasteless. The scholar, he doesn't like to drink tea. The young woman, that's all right. I can slowly learn what he likes. The scholar, he likes me. Ha! What do you think? Isn't it poignant and hilarious? And Lin laughed heartily. Chang, he shuddered, and an indescribable blush appeared on her face. Her eyes rippled, and her voice became a little softer. As expected, true love is between the same sex. This is a good joke. You pass. Ha! Ha! And Lin faltered again, and a look of confusion appeared on his face. It seemed like Chang Yi's point of view was different from his. In any case, this was a good result because Chang Yi had already agreed. Thank you, Celestial Maiden Chang. Thank you very much. And Lin was extremely excited. A faint smile appeared on Celestial Maiden Chang Yi's face. If everything goes smoothly, the Rainbow Divine Tao pill will be completed in a year or two. Are you sure you can produce enough spirit stones? And Lin nodded with a solemn expression. Don't worry, I'll definitely be able to produce enough spirit stones. Even if I can't, I'll sell my weapons to raise enough spirit stones for you. He was very confident in his wealth. With so many treasures in his storage ring, selling them for 100 million spirit stones wouldn't be an issue at all. Chang Yi nodded. All right, I'll start preparing to refine the Rainbow Divine Tao pill right away. Your 5 million spirit stones will be the insurance money. If you go back on your word or suddenly die, this money will be my compensation. And Lin's lips twitched slightly. Just pay the insurance money. Can't you just say something so unlucky? However, even though he was cursing in his heart, he still wore a smile on his face as he obediently handed over the 5 million spirit stones in his storage ring to Chang Yi. All right, now please call him Penniless. And Lin expressed his gratitude to Chang Yi again. This was a huge favor that required a lot of trust in order to make. After all, this was a very risky endeavor. If you were to find other top-rate pill refinement masters and ask them to refine a divine pill with 5 million spirit stones as a down payment, they would definitely slap him and tell him to piss off. Even though Chang had also thrown a slap at him, she still smiled and said, "I'll help you. Look at how nice this celestial maiden was. How kind and gentle. And Lin, work hard to earn money. I'll be going now." Chang, he bade farewell. "Take care, celestial maiden Chang." And Lin bade farewell to celestial maiden Chang, and began to return to Xiaoxian United University. Now, he was finally going to put his money-making plan on the agenda. This was a big plan, so he had to plan it well. Night fell. The moon was bright, and the stars were sparse. And Lin leaned against the windowsill and murmured to himself, "Xiao Hong, how do you think we could earn big money?" Xiao Hong yawned and replied in her sweet voice, "The world is beautiful as long as there's sunlight. What's the point of always thinking about earning money? I don't need money, so of course I don't know how to earn money." And Lin, all right, he shouldn't have asked this Buddha-like cultivator. Xiao Hong was a freak who ate, drank, and had fun every day. She would occasionally bask in the sun, and when fate was right, her cultivation base would automatically rise to a higher level. She was completely different from a fake cultivator like him. Shui Zhantian was extremely excited upon hearing this. "Master, please crush this sky with me. There will naturally be countless treasures waiting for us." And Lin rolled his eyes. This retard could be ignored. Who should he look for? His eyes lit up. Look for Xiaolan. Chapter 882. Candlelight flickered within the dorm. And Lin's night raid. Tui. It was a night raid on Su Xiaolan's dorm. Su Xiaolan wasn't surprised to see that it wasn't Lin, as she welcomed him graciously. "What is it? You look like you've encountered a problem?" Su Xiaolan asked with a faint smile. Before Lin had a chance to say anything, Su Xiaolan had already figured out what was going on. As expected of Su Xiaolan, Lin nodded. "I have indeed encountered a problem. I'm in need of spirit stones recently, and I'm looking for a quick way to earn money." Su Xiaolan's brows perked up slightly. "You're in need of spirit stones? How many do you need? If you're really short on spirit stones, I can lend you some." And Lin waved his hands. "No, I'm in need of a lot of spirit stones. It's better for me to earn them myself." "How many spirit stones do you need to earn?" Su Xiaolan pursed her lips. About 100 million spirit stones a year," and Lin replied. Su Xiaolan. Everyone suddenly fell silent. Su Xiaolan took a deep breath. "I suggest you go to sleep." And Lin blinked with confusion. "Why?" Su Xiaolan chuckled. "Anything can happen in a dream." And Lin, all right, this goal of earning 100 million spirit stones a year was an impossible mission in Su Xiaolan's eyes, and it was most likely the same in everyone else's eyes. And Lin walked out of the dorm with a dejected expression. He had to fulfill his promise, even if it cost him his life. Chang'e should already be preparing the ingredients for the divine pill. If she successfully refined the divine pill, but Lin couldn't pay the spirit stones, would he be hung on the moon and whipped by the laurel tree? The more Lin thought about it, the more pressure he felt. He recalled the horror of being dominated by the Golden Realm essence crystals. The ancient Tai Chu realm was a place where both danger and riches coexisted. Even though it would be difficult to obtain 100 million spirit stones, there was still hope. However, what about the campus of the United University of Cultivation? In such a warm and harmonious place, how could they make money if they couldn't even kill their enemies and steal their treasures? Did he just rely on selling steamed buns? How worrying. He opened the door and returned to the attic. Giant Lin. A beautiful and delicate figure flew in front of Lin. Her emerald green eyes were filled with a moving color. "I have a piece of good news." And Lin glanced at Tina with a listless expression. "What news?" "I'm currently struggling for money. If it's not about spirit stones, please don't bother me." "Ah, what a coincidence. The good news is about spirit stones. Giant Lin is so powerful." "Did you say that on purpose?" Tina covered her mouth with a hand in surprise. And Lin was completely awake. He held the elf with both hands, and his eyes lit up with excitement. "What's the good news?" A smug expression appeared on Tina's face. "The first spirit stone mine has been born in my divine mirror world." Boom! This piece of news was like a bolt of divine lightning striking in Lin's head, making him tremble with ecstasy. "Mine? My God, We actually have a spirit stone mine? And Lin's head was spinning from the immense joy he was experiencing. This was like a mortal suddenly discovering a gold mine in their home. How could they not be excited? Yes, as the world continues to improve and develop, there is a spirit stone mine near the deity ground that we created. Tina seemed very happy. That's right, and Lin could understand this. The holy ground was formed from the energy of the sky, the power of the veins of the earth, and the essence of the stars. It was actually quite logical that the first spirit stone mine of the divine mirror world would be born near the holy ground. How big is that mine? What about the purity? How much can we excavate? And Lin asked excitedly. This was the question that he was most concerned about. Tina thought to herself for a moment before replying. There are currently around 60 million spirit stones in reserve, all of which are of moderate purity, so we can already mine them. However, in order to ensure the sustainability of the mine, we can only mine 10 million spirit stones at most. And Lin rubbed his face against Tina's with excitement. Little Na, you're the best. You're my lucky star. Tina patted Lin's face with her tiny hands. She also began to giggle at Lin's elated expression. The spiritual aura of heaven and earth converged to give birth to spirit stones. As long as a spirit stone mine was excavated in moderation, it would be able to produce an inexhaustible supply of spirit stones. This was also why the spirit stone mines on the Tai Chu continent were so valuable. However, if they were excavated excessively, then the mine would deteriorate and eventually die. Hence, the rate of excavation had to be carefully controlled. To living beings on the Tai Chu continent, this was very difficult to control. It was not uncommon for spirit stone mines to gradually deteriorate and disappear, and the owners of these mines would naturally wail in despair. However, Tina was different. She was the god of creation, and she was the most knowledgeable person in the entire world about how to excavate spirit stones. And Lin and Tina arrived in the divine mirror world. They flew above the spirit stone mine to find that it was situated on a mountain ridge enshrouded in white vital energy mist. The mountain ridge was like the back of a coiling dragon, while the spirit stone mine was like the spine of the dragon. Both of them exuded a translucent green light, and the energy imbued within them was extremely rich. Spirit stone mines are formed by heaven and earth, but they are also limited by heaven and earth. Once they take form, it will be very difficult for them to continue to gather spiritual aura and expand their reserves. However, it will be a lot easier for them to reconstruct the missing spirit stones, Tina explained. And Lin stroked his chin. It feels like a living being that can use the power of heaven and earth to recover from its injuries. But it will die if it's too severely injured? Wow, Jine and Lin, that's a very vivid description. Tina praised with a dainty smile. Then, how long will it take for it to recover? And Lin asked. A golden light flashed through Tina's eyes, and she instantly completed her calculations. Taking into account the acceleration of time, it will take about 3 years to completely recover in real time, Tina replied in a faint voice. And Lin heaved a faint sigh upon hearing this. It looked like this spirit stone mine alone wasn't going to be enough to achieve his goal. However, being able to collect 10 million spirit stones had already given him a lot of hope and confidence. Hopefully, 1 or 2 more spirit stone mines would appear in the divine mirror world within a year. Are we going to send people to excavate the spirit stone mine now? And Lin asked, why should we? Tina blinked her emerald eyes. I can take care of it by myself. By yourself? And Lin faltered slightly upon hearing this. At this moment, Tina waved a hand toward the spirit stone mine down below. Rumble, streaks of green light erupted from the spirit stone mine before converging in front of Tina like a meteor shower. There were so many of them that Lin felt like he was going to be blinded. Each time Tina extracted the spirit stone from the spirit stone mine, she would do so according to a specific ratio and location in order to minimize damage to the spirit stone mine and maximize its regenerative abilities. Her precise control was unparalleled. She was like a godly doctor who knew every single part of the spirit stone mine. And Lin suddenly thought of a certain piece of news in the mortal world. A certain female doctor stabbed her boyfriend several dozen times in succession, but the hospital only pronounced it as a minor injury. However, Tina had stabbed the spirit stone mine 10 million times, and the world had judged her to be a terrifying being with minor injuries. Giant and Lin, take it. Tina tossed the spirit stones toward Lin in an extremely generous manner. And Lin was almost moved to tears, and he carefully stowed away the 10 million spirit stones before turning to the fairy before him with gratitude in his eyes. Goddess Tina was the perfect person to latch onto. As long as he could hook up with a wealthy woman in the cultivation world, he would be able to instantly reach the pinnacle of his life. This was Lin's path to riches. Chapter 883. And Lin left the divine mirror world with a content expression after enjoying the feeling of being Tina's sugar daddy. Tina also had another opportunity to dote on Lin, and a joyful smile appeared on her face. Giant and Lin, I'll be sure to inform you as soon as new spirit stone mines appear in the divine mirror world. Tina circled around Lin with a crisp and gentle voice. Little Na is the best. I'll cook a frying pan feast for you tomorrow. And Lin praised with a smile. Yay, Giant and Lin is the best. Tina latched onto Lin's finger excitedly. The food you make with your frying pan is the best food in the world. Of course. And Lin raised his head with a smug expression. All of a sudden, he faltered slightly. Wait, something doesn't seem right. And Lin's expression darkened. What do you mean by my frying pan is the best food? The food I make with my frying pan is clearly the best food. Is there a difference? Tina blinked with confusion in her eyes. There is a difference. And Lin replied with a serious expression. The former makes your frying pan very bad *SS, while the latter makes your Giant and Lin very bad *SS. Oh. Tina nodded. Otherwise, the food you make wouldn't even be as good as the food made by the aunties in the school cafeteria. The food Giant and Lin makes with his frying pan is the best food in the world. Lin loves it the most. Tina lied with a dainty smile. And Lin was extremely satisfied. The best food in the world. A thought suddenly occurred to him. If he sold 100 steamers of stuffed buns ignored by Dubai for 1,000 spirit stones each, he would be able to make 100,000 spirit stones a day. However, this was clearly not a sustainable business, as the students really didn't have that much money. After all, the frying pan was the #1 luxury item in the school. Many of them came to the frying pan with the intention of trying it out, only to feel a little distressed afterward. There were almost no students who could afford to buy stuffed buns every day. Why don't we sell buns every other day? Hunger marketing. Then, when I'm free, I'll make some special dishes and sell them. A contemplative expression appeared on Lin's face. It seemed a little difficult to make a dish from the frying pan worth more than 100,000 spirit stones. That night, the frying pan feast was held again. And Lin even called Xiaolan over to give him some advice. Su Xiaolan thought for a moment, then said, the reason why the dishes of the god of cooking of the celestial court are so priceless is not only because of the superb taste, but also because of the pure energy contained in the dishes, which can heal injuries, increase cultivation, and enlighten people. Are you saying that we should start from the inner aspect? And Lin asked. Su Xiaolan nodded. That's right. Do you remember the cola chicken you made for me? When the pot was opened, the phenomenon of a rising phoenix appeared. When cooking with the frying pan, the special effects are automatically added, which is a much better selling point than adding artificial special effects. If we add some medicinal properties, then the dishes we make can even surpass the god of cooking. Her words were like a bucket of wisdom pouring into Lin's head, and his entire body was filled with excitement. All right, I'll give it a try tomorrow. After all, Lin had a foundation in both culinary and pill refinement. You're saying that my cooking skills are only at the level of the school cafeteria Annies? Come on, every cafeteria Annies had different cooking skills. Not all cafeteria Annies would cook randomly, and when the time was right, the dishes would naturally be ready to eat. This was the Celestial Court Xiaoxian United University, the #1 university in the Kingdom of the 9 States. How could the cooking skills of the Annies who could cook for all the prodigies here be bad? One had to realize that even pampered people like Xianyuan Cheng, Su Qianyun, and Su Xiaolan found the food here to be quite good. It was already very bad *SS that Enlin's cooking skills were comparable to the cafeteria Annie's. Of course, there was still a gap between his cooking skills and the god of cooking of the Celestial Court. But that didn't matter. He had the frying pan as a cheat. Flavor enhancements and special effects were no joke. These effects would play a decisive role in the food. The food that immortals ate was no longer to fill their stomachs. It was for enjoyment. Not only did Enlin's dishes have to be enjoyable to the taste buds, but they also had to be enjoyable to the senses of smell, sight, hearing, and touch. Even his consciousness had to be pleasurable. This was the #1 dish in the world that he was pursuing. The next day, after class, Enlin stood in the kitchen and looked at the ingredients in front of him. These were all high-grade ingredients that had been carefully selected from his storage ring. All of them exuded bursts of unique energy fluctuations, and they were all excellent ingredients for pill refinement. As for the condiments, there were all kinds of condiments from all the major tribes and regions. There were even spices from the divine mirror world. He looked toward his sea of vital energy at the white vermilion bird, who was circling in the air in boredom. Little vermilion bird, please help me. The vermilion bird glanced up into the air. Pill refinement again? No, learn how to cook for me. You'll be responsible for cooking. Vermilion bird, I'm a mighty vermilion bird. And I'm going to be a chef? What a joke. Enlin continued, you can play with the 7 flames. Chirp. The vermilion bird flew toward Enlin's consciousness excitedly. The projection of a white vermilion bird flashed past Enlin's eyes, and he spread his hands open at the same time. Flames of all different colors appeared in the air, creating a dazzling sight to behold. How to use flames was also an important part of cooking. Right now, Enlin was invincible when it came to using flames. Thump, 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 crack, 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 boom, boom, boom. Within the kitchen, an earth-shattering battle erupted. Within the core area of the Celestial Court, on a pavilion within a secluded paradise, a woman in a plain Taoist robe stared blankly at the peach blossom forest in the distance as the peach blossoms blossomed. White clouds swept across the sky, and an immortal in a flowing white robe suddenly flew toward her atop a black brick. It was quite a beautiful scene, but it was completely ruined by the huge brick. However, for some reason, an unconcealable smile appeared on the woman's face as she rose to her feet to welcome him. Enlin leaped into the room through the window. Piggy bank, are you getting impatient? He asked with a buoyant grin. Lin Junjun glared at Enlin. If you call me Piggy bank again, you can leave right now. All right. Celestial maiden tea on you. Are you mentally prepared? Enlin placed a sealed dish onto the table. Lin Junjun crossed her arms in front of her chest and harumphed. What do I need to mentally prepare myself for? You're talking about the #1 dish in the Kingdom of the 9 States that can surpass the chef god. Do you think I'll believe anything you say? Enlin wasn't enraged by her words. Instead, he rubbed his hands together nervously. He reached for the lid of the dish. Now let's speak with facts. Chapter 884. Enlin lifted the lid of the dish on the table. A golden light radiated outward like a ray of light. What a piercing light. Lin Junjun shielded her eyes with an expression of shock on her face. However, what was even more astonishing was yet to come. After the lid was completely lifted, a phenomenon occurred. A full moon suddenly appeared in the sky, from which the energy of true Yin surged. There seemed to be a Guanghan ballad drifting into the air like the sounds of nature. Woof! A white flying dog charged toward the full moon and swallowed it in one mouthful at a time. Then, as if it had attained enlightenment, it sat down with its legs crossed, closed its eyes, and puffed out its chest. Then, it raised a finger toward the sky and transformed into a feather. Finally, the white light of ascension descended from the sky and landed on the dish upon which it shimmered. Lin Junjun and Enlin were both dumbstruck by what they saw. A rich aroma began to waft through the air. The fragrant and tender dog meat was at the very center of the plate, and At the bottom was a golden fried egg that was as shiny as a full moon. All sorts of side dishes decorated the dish, creating a scene reminiscent of a moon palace. And Lin swallowed as an urge to eat welled up in his heart. F***CK. How could he let someone else eat such an exquisite dish? He might as well take it home and eat it himself. In the next instant, and Lin's body shuddered. What an amazing dish. It even had the ability to confuse one's mind. Lin, is this really for me? Lin Junjun's eyes glazed over as she reached for the dish with both hands, forgetting to pick up her chopsticks as she tried to grab the dish with her bare hands. No one could resist her charm. Slap. And Lin slapped Lin Junjun's slender hand. Pick up your chopsticks. Lin Junjun came to her senses and blushed as she eagerly picked up her chopsticks. Lin, what's the name of this dish? Heavenly Dog Engulfs the Moon. How domineering. Lin Junjun picked up a slice of meat that glowed with moonlight and opened her mouth to take a small bite. The moaning of a woman instantly erupted from within the room. Ah, this feeling. How could there be such a delicious dish in this world? I can't take it anymore. Give it to me. I want to. Don't come, they're all mine. The woman moaned again and again, her voice reverberating in the pavilion. Outside the pavilion, the celestial Dharch drew a sharp intake of breath as his body began to tremble uncontrollably upon hearing the commotion going on inside the pavilion. Soon, the heavenly dog engulfing the moon on the plate was completely devoured by the two hungry dogs, Lin and Lin Junjun. The two of them panted heavily as they looked at each other. A bright blush appeared on Lin Junjun's face as she burst into laughter. Ha ha, there's an egg yolk on your nose. She pointed in Lin's nose and laughed. And Lin chuckled. What are you laughing at? You still have vegetable leaves in your teeth. Lin Junjun immediately pulled out a small mirror and bared her teeth, only to find that there was nothing wrong with them. Where? In that instant, Lin had already eaten the egg yolk and washed his face. There's none left now. Lin Junjun faltered slightly before erupting in rage. Fine, you lied to me again. She extended a hand as if she was going to hit him. Lin took a couple of steps back and raised his hands in surrender. Calm down. I didn't lie to you when I said my dishes were super delicious, did I? Lin Junjun humphed lightly. I won't deny that. This heavenly dog engulfing the moon is indeed the most delicious dish I've ever had. It's flawless in all aspects, and the power of the moon is also nourishing my body, relaxing my muscles, and activating my meridians, thereby increasing my cultivation base. She paused momentarily before continuing. All right, I'll help you advertise your dish among the immortals of the celestial court and guarantee its quality. And Lin was extremely excited. Then I'll have to trouble you. Celestial Maiden Tian Yu. By the way, how much do you charge for each dish? Tian Yu asked. And Lin paused momentarily before replying. 100,000 spirit stones. Tian Yu, you really dare to charge such a high price? A faint smile appeared on Lin's face. Only once a day, and the price will increase in the future. All right, I'll reserve 2 meals in advance. The dishes for tomorrow and the day after will all be mine. Lin Junjun's eyes lit up as she made a prompt decision. And Lin, soon, a piece of news began to circulate through the celestial court. The new chef god of the celestial court had been born. His cooking skills were earth-shattering, and the celestial Dharch fell silent while Tian Yu wept after eating his dishes. He was a top-notch chef recommended by the celestial Dharch pavilion of the celestial court. Apparently, this chef only cooked 1 dish a day, and he charged a whopping 100,000 spirit stones. This price was already comparable to the prices of the exquisite dishes cooked by the old chef god of the celestial court, Hu Jiahao. This piece of news quickly created a massive stir in the celestial court. What joke! An unknown chef was charging a sky-high price for his first dish? Wasn't that just trying to fool the immortals? What idiot would fall for that? However, what was even more astonishing was that the cooking skills of this new chef god were soon officially acknowledged by the celestial Dharch. This was incredible. They could ignore rumors, but what if it was personally acknowledged by the celestial Dharch? Just like the Changsha stinky tofu that Chairman Mao personally wrote, who wouldn't want to try it? The celestial arch wouldn't lie to them, right? Thus, countless foodie immortals turned their scorching gazes toward the new chef. 100,000 spirit stones was a little expensive, but if a group of 10 went to eat the same dish, then it would only cost 10,000 spirit stones each, and they would be able to taste the most delicious dish in the world. There were still immortals who were brave enough to try something like this. One day, after the executive meeting of the Celestial Court concluded, the topic of conversation revolved around the chef god again. Hey, I heard that the chef god is Lin from the United University of Cultivation. My god, that Lin who pummeled Emperor Ziwei? Chill. Do you want to die for saying something like that in the Celestial Court? I'm going to try his cooking just based on his resume. Apparently, he's also the creator of the steamed buns ignored by Dubai. Oh, I know that. It's one of the specialties of the Celestial Court. Looks like he really does have some skills. Let's go and have a taste as well. Let's go together. On a certain food street in the Celestial Court, Lin had rented a shop. The decorations inside were simple and plain, and the shop was quite inconspicuous. The most eye-catching thing was probably the signboard. This was the Celestial Court Chef God and Lin's Gourmet Shop. Aside from him, there was only one person in the Celestial Court who dared to hang the title of Chef God. This title was frightening. Coupled with the shop's simple and shabby decorations, it created a contrast to cuteness. Hence, all of the immortals passing by this place would take a few more glances at it before coming to the conclusion that this was a fake chef god. However, as the news spread, a peculiar change began to take place. Many of the immortals looked at this little shop in a different light. Some were curious, some were confused, and some were longing, and Lin sat there obediently, yawning in boredom. Su Xiaolan had already applied for a leave of absence for him. Her reason was very sincere, and Lin had no interest in cultivation, so he learned how to cook and open a restaurant. Their homeroom teacher, Flying Sword God, almost suffered an internal injury when he saw this excuse. If you're asking for a leave of absence, then just ask for a leave of absence. Can't you show some respect for the homeroom teacher? However, what Flying Sword God didn't expect was that Su Xiaolan's explanation was actually true. Just as the sun was about to set, 8 figures suddenly appeared in the Celestial Court Chef God and Lin's Gourmet Shop. And Lin's eyes lit up. The prey he had been waiting for was finally here. Chapter 885. This guy couldn't stop flexing. Long time no see in Lin. The man's smile was like a spring breeze. But since he was already here, no matter how much he bragged, he would know the truth after tasting Dubai's food. Tui, Imperial Uncle Chow, what kind of theory is that? Have you been led astray by Lin's sun and moon? 10,000 chicken per day is not bad. I like to eat chicken. How could it taste good? I feel like he cooks faster than me, Lan Tsai has said with a pout. The 8 immortals all drew a sharp intake of breath, and Lin clasped his hands behind his back and raised his head. There was a profound look in his eyes, and his aura was one and the same. I hold the sun, the moon, and the stars in my hand. There is no one like me in this world. They were just here for a meal, and they were taking advantage of him. And Lin's dishes and Hu Jiahao's exquisite dishes are priced at roughly the same price. Even if the dishes come out super fast, it would still take a few hours to cook, right? They still had enough money to afford a tasting meal. With the Celestial Thearcha's guarantee, they naturally wouldn't lose anything. Why was this guy so confident? The most delicious dishes of his life? What heavenly dog engulfs the moon? Heavenly dog engulfs the sun. Chong? He runs to the moon. Ho, he shoots the sun. Kwa Fu pursues the sun. So fast. Zhang Guolao's eyes widened. The hand that was stroking his snow-white beard almost pulled it off. Celestial Maiden, he had no choice but to choose her own dishes. In the end, she chose a rather strange dish. It was called Zodiac Auspicious Day. Iron Crutchley looked at it. There were over 100 dishes on it, and the names were quite intimidating. Then, the 8 immortals saw a scene that they would never forget. An hour later, and Lin came out. The 8 immortals stood outside the door and hesitated momentarily before walking in. The 8 immortals shuddered upon hearing this. and they drew a sharp intake of breath. Celestial maiden, he gasped. F***CK? Is there anyone else who can control the situation? There were 7 men and 1 woman, and the man at the front was handsome and elegant. The 8 immortals shuddered again. The 8 immortals began to argue fiercely. F***CK. You can't stop acting tough, right? Han Zhongli, Zhang Walao, Han Xiangzi, Tai Guili, Lu Dongbin, He Xingu, Lan Saiha, and Chao Gujiu. And Lin had heard a lot about these 8 immortals. F***CK. I've already offered a sky-high price of 100,000 spirit stones per dish, and you still want to raise the price? This won't do, this won't do. I can tell that this dish is vegetarian. Then you've come the right time. And Lin chuckled and said, I'm not bragging, but you've probably never tasted such delicious food in your lives. Moreover, this is the lowest price now. After a period of time, the price will definitely rise, so you've taken advantage of it. Asterisk. Elder Gua, how long do you think it will take for Enlin to make this dish? Han Xiangzi pulled a chair and sat down casually. Even the corner of Lu Dongbin's mouth twitched. This name does sound like a top-notch cuisine. He Xingu was amused. Her graceful figure swayed as she giggled. Lu Dongbin's face darkened. Why are these dishes all about the sun and the moon? Mr. Enlin's cooking speed is surprisingly fast. Celestial maiden, he exclaimed in surprise. Then he silently praised himself for being quick-witted. That's right. The immortals here were the 8 immortals who were extremely famous in the celestial court. Zhang Guilao shook his head. It's hard to say, but the more exquisite the dish, the more energy it takes. It said that Chef God Hu Jiahao takes half a day to cook a top-notch dish if it's fast, and up to half a month if it's slow. He was very familiar with this process. Perhaps this was how he had done it in the past. Lin smiled. The dish is ready. Lu Dongbin, that's right, it was a dish that she didn't understand, but it sounded awesome. She wanted to see what Lin, who was known as the divine chef, could come up with such a strange dish name. Lin also stood up and bowed. Senior Lu Dongbin, long time no see. In the end, He Xingu became the one who made the decision. Here, Senior, this is the menu. You can choose for yourselves. And Lin handed a large golden menu to Iron Crutchley. The 8 immortals looked at it. At first, they were curious, but gradually, they felt that something was not right, and their expressions became strange. The 8 immortals, as it turned out, it wasn't a good thing for the 8 immortals to have strong personalities. It was too difficult for them to reach a consensus on certain matters. In the end, they still had to draw straws, and the one who drew the decision would be the one who made the decision. She turned to Enlin with a smile. Enlin, do you have any good suggestions? For example, which dish is the signature dish? That's a good name. Celestial maiden, he faltered momentarily before praising again. Enlin smiled. All of my dishes have reached the pinnacle of perfection and are unique in this world. It doesn't matter if it is a signature dish or not, as long as you eat it all the way to the climax. Zhang Guilao asked in a serious manner. Mr. Enlin, what is the special meaning behind your naming method? In other words, why did you have to go against the sun and the moon? Enlin's eyes lit up again. Familiar faces. He then turned to the other 7 immortals and bowed again. Junior Enlin pays his respects to the seniors of the 8 immortals. I've heard a lot about you. Regardless of whether it was in the stories of the mortal world or in the textbooks of the United University of Cultivation, the 8 of them were all very interesting immortals. They were then greeted by the sight of Enlin making his way into the kitchen with an indifferent expression. Immediately thereafter, the sounds of cooking erupted from within. Enlin had saved Celestial Maiden He's life in the ancient Tai Chu realm. So Celestial Maiden, he was very friendly toward him. Celestial Maiden, he was worried for nothing. Enlin wasn't being polite at all. He was not treating them as outsiders at all. Lu Dongbin nodded in agreement. That explains why Mr. Enlin can only cook 1 meal a day. After all, it takes a lot of energy and time, and even 2 meals won't be enough. Enlin sighed with emotion. He hadn't saved this Celestial Maiden for nothing. Then, Mr. Enlin, what dishes can you make? The #1 foodie among the 8 immortals, Iron Crutchley, couldn't help but ask. And Lin smiled. You'll know if it's delicious after you try it yourself. He slowly lifted the lid as he spoke. That won't do, Han Zhongli. Let's do it before the flowers and under the moonlight. I like flowers, Lan Saiha, who loved flowers, protested. And Lin, there's no need to be so polite. Celestial Maiden, he made her way over to Enlin with a vibrant smile on her face. I heard that the Celestial the Arch bestowed upon you as the second chef god of the Celestial Court. We're very close, so of course I have to come and try your cooking. I'll take this dish. Solar and lunar eclipse. Both the sun and the moon are present, so it should be quite delicious. The other 8 immortals repressed their curses and began to look through the menu to decide which dish to order. Chapter 886. The instant the lid was lifted, a golden light illuminated the entire restaurant. What a piercing light! Lan Saiha exclaimed as he narrowed his eyes. That's the precious light of food. Zhang Guolao's eyes lit up. Immediately afterward, countless beautiful scenes began to appear before everyone's eyes, all of which were delightful scenes. Not only was it visually impactful, but it was also impactful to the ears. A bright female voice began to sound. The song was Today is a Good Day. Today is a good day. Everything I want can come true. Tomorrow is a good day. We open our doors to welcome the spring breeze. The singing is very pleasing to the ear, and it matches the name of the dish very well. Wonderful, wonderful. Han Xiangzi was completely entranced by the song. What was an auspicious day? The Azure Dragon, Tian De, Yu Tang, Si Ming, Ming Tang, and Jin Kuei were known as the 6 ecliptic gods. When the 6 ecliptic gods were on duty, it was an auspicious day. After the phenomena disappeared, all 8 immortals turned to look at the dishes on the plates. The Azure Dragon coiled around the periphery, like jade and lightning. The Tianda and Jin Kuei were objects that resembled golden coins, exuding a mesmerizing glow. The Si Ming was the Phoenix Chariot Star, a chicken that had transformed into a phoenix. Its wings were crispy, and an extremely alluring charred aroma wafted through the air. The Ming Tang and Yu Tang were fragrant vegetables that resembled the feathers of a phoenix. All 8 immortals felt their bodies and souls throbbing at the sight of this. A thought suddenly appeared in their minds. They really wanted to eat. All 8 of them began to move their chopsticks at the same time. In the beginning, they were a bit more reserved. After all, they had lived for so long and had seen all kinds of storms. However, when the dishes entered their mouths, everything changed. All 8 immortals shuddered at the same time. Oh, this taste, my God! Oh, gasp! Vital energy suddenly surged as the chopsticks transformed into a series of afterimages. Get out of my way! This chicken wing is mine. Lu Dongbin screamed as his chopsticks were like swords, vanquishing all the chopsticks around him. No, I just want those smart vegetables. Why did you hit me? Lawn-sized chopsticks were like orchids, using softness to overcome hardness, constantly moving the chopsticks around him. Celestial Maiden, he let out a soft snort, and the phantom image of a lotus shrouded a piece of chicken wing. She said in a low voice, "The chicken wing is so delicious, but Lu Dongbin, you actually want to keep it for yourself. Have you asked me?" Everyone, calm down, calm down. Respect your elders, understand? I'll go first. Tai Guili's chopsticks were imbued with the power of the Tao of metal, making them extremely ferocious. They actually broke through Lan Sai's soft stance and went for the fresh meat that looked like an azure dragon. Bah, why don't you say that you love the young? Lan Sai shouted, and the chopsticks once again fought with Zhang Guolao. You're already so old. Why are you still pretending to be young? Elder Zhang was furious. Among the 8 immortals, I'm the youngest. If I'm not young, then what am I? Lan Saiha retorted reasonably, and his attacks with the chopsticks became more and more skillful. Chao Guizhou was even more powerful. On the surface, he appeared to be attacking with the chopsticks, but in reality, he was using a soul technique to create a wisp of his consciousness, which he used to sneak toward the dish that looked like an ingot. This move was to build a plank road in the open while secretly crossing Chensong. It was truly ingenious to use. Unfortunately, this move was seen through by Han Zhongli, who possessed the eye of the sun god. He casually killed the wisp of his consciousness with a wave of flames. Hee hee, old Chow, you're not a good person. You're still thinking of stealing? A man should fight head-on. Han Xiangzi laughed heartily. He waved a hand, and over 100 nimble little people materialized in the air. They pounced toward the auspicious sun, intending to take it all. Holy F***CK. Old Han, you're even more F***king dishonest. Han Zhongli was given a fright, and he immediately pulled out a fan before waving it violently. Flames exploded. Boom! The flames exploded like a ball. The Celestial Court Chef God and Lin's Gourmet Restaurant exploded. Fortunately, Lu Dongbin and Celestial Maiden, he protected the auspicious sun at the critical moment. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Holy F***CK. Han Zhongli, are you F***king crazy? Han Xiangzi cursed. You were the one who went crazy first. How dare you try to take it all? Han Zhongli chortled with glee. Thus, the two of them began to bicker again. No, it should be said that the 8 immortals began to bicker over the auspicious sun again. And Lin clasped a hand over his chest as he stared at the charred remains of the shop. F***CK. The 8 immortals had been so sage-like just a moment ago. Why did their image crumble so suddenly? Was it really okay to fight on the streets? Now, it looked like his decision to randomly pick a simple and unadorned restaurant was a F***king wise one. No matter how good the restaurant was, it would explode in less than a day. 8 immortals crossing the sea. Tui, were the 8 immortals passing by the restaurant to steal food? After a fierce battle on the auspicious sun, the 8 immortals were finally exhausted and panting heavily as they lay on the ground. The auspicious sun had been swept clean by them. Huff, huff, huff. I never thought that we would fight over a dish, Han Zhongli said slowly as he panted heavily. And Lin's cooking skills are truly superb. Celestial Maiden, he licked her lips with her dainty pink tongue, still wishing for more. Lu Dongbin nodded. I've given Lin full marks for this dish. Haha, seniors, you're too kind. If you like it, you can come again tomorrow, and Lin said with a smile. We have to go on a mission to the EC tomorrow. Can't we do it today? We can increase the price and cook more. Zhang Wolao couldn't help but suggest, and Lin shook his head with disappointment. I can't, senior. Due to some special reasons, I can only cook 1 meal a day. The 8 immortals sighed in disappointment when they heard this. Don't worry, and Lin will definitely help you advertise your restaurant when we get back. The quality of your dishes is not inferior to Chef God Hu Jia House. Lan Sai has said excitedly. The other 7 immortals all chimed in and declared that they would help Lin advertise his restaurant. And Lin was ecstatic and gave them another steamer of stuffed buns ignored by Dubai. One had to realize that the 8 immortals had a very wide network in the Celestial Court. If they were to advertise personally, the effect would definitely be extraordinary. Just like that, the 8 immortals returned. As part of the food tasting group, they gave their evaluation of Lin's cooking. That was, Lin truly deserved the title of Chef God. This news caused another stir in the Celestial Court. The Celestial Thearcha's advertising was like official advertising. Although it was reliable, it wasn't down to earth. However, the 8 immortals' advertising was like the most reliable buyer's show. They gave the most authentic evaluation through the most personal experience. One had to know that the 8 immortals had different tastes. Male, female, old, young, rich, noble, poor, and lowly were their characteristics. It was very difficult to cook a dish and please 8 different immortals. However, they all agreed that Lin's cooking skills were worthy of the title of Chef God. This represented that Lin's cooking skills were superior to almost everyone. This news began to spread like wildfire in the Celestial Court. Countless foodie immortals began to become restless, and they all turned their attention to the simple and crude shop on the food street. And Lin's Gourmet Restaurant finally became popular. And Lin decided not to sell buns for now. He would focus on his gourmet restaurant and make a name for himself. The next afternoon, a group of immortals gathered in the Celestial Court at Lin's Gourmet Restaurant. Chapter 887. Is this the small shop? It looks so unique. Although the place isn't big, the decoration style is quite exquisite. What's the point of having a big place? How many customers can there be if they only cook one dish a day? If it were up to me, this shop could be even smaller. I just want to ask, why are the walls made of alloy? Haha, are they worried that the shop will explode? The group of immortals laughed and chatted. In the end, a few immortals decided to pool their money and go eat together. The rest of the immortals didn't plan to buy anything, so they chatted on the side while waiting for the result. They didn't enter the shop either. After all, it would be too strange for a group of onlookers to enter a small shop and just watch from the side. The immortals who didn't enter only wanted to see the expressions of the immortals who came out after eating a sky-high price meal. That was what they were most looking forward to. At first, the shop was quiet. The immortals who went in were probably waiting for the food to be served. However, a dazzling light shone through the window and the door, and everything changed. The shop was no longer quiet. Instead, the sound of all kinds of energy surging and exploding could be heard. The immortals outside the shop looked at each other in dismay. At this time, an alluring aroma wafted out of the shop. The incomparably mellow aroma explained everything. The immortals' throats moved, their lips and tongues were dry, and their stomachs couldn't help but growl. They had an urge to go in and eat a big meal. Not long after, the immortals who entered the shop came out. Their faces were strangely flushed, and their expressions revealed great satisfaction. The onlookers eagerly asked, "How was it? How did the food taste?" The taste was okay, but 100,000 spirit stones is a bit expensive. Taoist Master Fei Long, who had entered the shop and eaten, said with a smile. Ferrying Chow, whose face was still strangely flushed, nodded. Yes, little friend, and Lin's cooking skills are excellent, but 100,000 spirit stones is a bit too expensive. That's all I have to say. You guys can weigh it. Immediately afterward, the other immortals who entered the shop also said the same thing. Hearing this, some of the onlookers believed it, while others pondered and felt that something was wrong. Another day passed. On the opening day of the Celestial Courts and Lin Gourmet Restaurant, another group of immortals had gathered outside. A few immortals who felt that something was amiss came here again and discovered a strange scene. Holy shit. Ferrying Chow, Taoist Flying Dragon, why are you here again? Didn't you say yesterday that 100,000 spirit stones was too expensive, so it wasn't worth it? An immortal exclaimed. Ferrying Chow blushed. I'm just worried that Mr. and Lin's restaurant is going to close down, so I'm here to help you. The immortal's mouth twitched. Like hell, I believe you. The other immortals also came to their senses. How is it not delicious? It was clearly too delicious. In order to prevent the other immortals from fighting over it, they had said those words yesterday. If it was a delicious gourmet restaurant, they might introduce it to each other. But what if that gourmet restaurant could only make one dish a day, and they really wanted to eat it? Only a fool would introduce him to someone else. The group of immortals instantly exploded and rushed toward Lin's gourmet restaurant. That's right, after this incident, the curiosity of the immortals skyrocketed again, which indirectly led to a wave of popularity. And Lin couldn't help but be shocked when he saw the influx of immortals. It's only been 3 days, and it's already this popular? This is too exaggerated. Just like that, the small restaurant was instantly filled with immortals. Mr. and Lin, please give me a chong. You flying to the moon. Get out of my way, I was here first. Give me a dish of yearning day and night. Little friend and Lin, it's me. Do you still remember me? Ferrying Chow. I'm an old customer. Old customers get priority. Brother and Lin, I'm already calling you brother. So give me, Tai-Bai jinxing, some face. Mr. and Lin, I'm Yu Lao. Hurry up and make me a dish, or I'll cut off your marriage. And Lin, thus, the group of immortals fought over this dish. They sold their sentiments, tried to reason with him, and even tried to coerce him. This put a lot of pressure on Lin, and Lin was forced to propose a fairer plan. I'm sure all of you know that due to special circumstances, my restaurant can only make one dish a day, so I can't satisfy all of your requests at the same time. How about this? I'll hold an auction. The starting price is 100,000 spirit stones, and I'll raise it by 10,000 each time. The highest bidder wins. That way, we'll be able to resolve all of the unnecessary disputes. What do you think? Boom! All of the immortals instantly exploded upon hearing this. The starting price was already 100,000 spirit stones, and he still wanted to raise the price? 110,000 spirit stones. Ferrying Chow raised her hand. Gasp! All of the immortals drew a sharp intake of breath. 120,000 spirit stones. Don't fight with an old man like me, or else I'll cut off your marriage. Yulao chuckled. All of the immortals shuddered upon hearing this. This Yulao was going to use his trump card. Who would dare to accept this? No one wanted to be a single dog. The howling celestial dog, won't fall for this. 130,000 spirit stones. Woof. A dark-skinned man with dog ears chuckled. Gasp. The barefooted weren't afraid of those with shoes. The ancients were right. A little celestial maiden like me isn't afraid of being single. 140,000 spirit stones. Another foodie, celestial maiden, made a bid. Yulao, if you dare to cut off our marriage, we'll team up and tear your house down. 6 immortals made a bid. 150,000 spirit stones. Another commotion erupted. The more Lin watched, the more elated he became. Haha, fight to your heart's content. As immortals, how could you tolerate being threatened by the Yulao? Even if you have to bet your dignity as immortals, you have to fight and beat the Yulao down. In any case, he was the one who made the most money in the end. After a round of bidding, the god of thunder and mother of lightning finally won this meal at the price of 200,000 spirit stones. All the immortals came to their senses and were all dumbstruck. What the F***CK? A dish that was priced at 100,000 spirit stones actually became a dish that was priced at 200,000 spirit stones through the auction? That was F***king terrifying. One meal was equivalent to a fairly valuable spirit artifact. Today is our 9,999th wedding anniversary. Lin, make us a sun and moon harmony dish. The thunder god lord said with a buoyant smile. All right, happy anniversary. Please wait a moment. Lin happily accepted the money and entered the kitchen to begin his cooking journey. Not long after, the sun and moon combination dish was ready. As soon as the lid was opened, the treasured light of food and a phenomenon appeared. The sun and moon hung in the air at the same time, interdependent and inseparable, bringing with it a sense of eternity. The god of thunder and mother of lightning couldn't control their emotions after eating this dish. They recalled the memories of their 999th wedding anniversary and began to kiss each other in a fit of passion. All the immortals who had their stomachs abused in front of everyone were dumbstruck again. They walked out of the restaurant in a daze. Is this dish really worth 200,000 spirit stones? It's too high. It's definitely too high. This is just a speculation. Once the popularity of the dish dies down tomorrow, it won't fetch such a high price anymore. That's right, that's right. Maybe no one will go, and they'll be forced to lower their prices. All the immortals chatted as they walked. At the same time, the news of Lin's dish being auctioned for 200,000 spirit stones began to spread throughout the celestial court, causing another huge sensation. Countless people began to discuss fervently. Some immortals exclaimed in amazement, while others expressed their doubts and confusion. Some even pointed out that it was a form of speculation. How shameless! A new day arrived. Chef God and Lin's gourmet restaurant in the celestial court was once again packed with immortals. This time, it was auctioned off again. The final price was 250,000 spirit stones. Countless immortals were astonished once again. Were there so many stupid C** and TS? Or rather, another day passed by. On the 5th day, a dish from Lin's Chef God and Lin's gourmet restaurant in the celestial court was auctioned for an astronomical price of 300,000 spirit stones. The entire celestial court was in an uproar upon hearing this news. Chapter 888. What did 300,000 spirit stones mean? It was almost the price of a high-grade spirit artifact or a 6th-grade immortal pill. An immortal pill for a dish? Was it really that scary? Crazy. They were all F***king insane. All the immortals had the same thought. The immortals who had bid for Lin's dishes had all gone crazy. However, when the immortals of the heavenly court asked about the lunatics who had tasted in Lin's cooking, all of them wore expressions of bliss and contentment on their faces, and they expressed that they would continue to eat in Lin's cooking as long as their financial situation allowed for it. The other immortals were confused. Was a heavenly dish really that good? It's all a publicity stunt. Don't be fooled, everyone. We have to spend calmly. An immortal analyzed calmly at this moment. Another immortal yelled with grief and indignation. Don't be fooled by Lin. It's really not as good as you think. It'll be too late to regret it if you really buy it. The old chef god of the celestial court, Hu Jiahao, also spoke. Don't worry. I believe you all have a pair of eyes that can tell right from wrong. You all know what's worth and what's not. The price should come down on the second day. On the sixth day, Chef God and Lin's dish was sold for an astronomical price of 320,000 spirit stones. The immortals, Hu Jiahao, on the seventh day, Chef God and Lin's dish was sold for a whopping 350,000 spirit stones. The immortals, Hu Jiahao, on the eighth day, and Lin's dish was sold for 400,000 spirit stones due to the bidding of the celestial Thearcha's 7 daughters. Rumble. This news exploded in the celestial court like a clap of thunder. Countless immortals were dumbfounded, and some onlookers didn't even notice when their melons fell to the ground. 400,000 spirit stones? They couldn't imagine what that meant. Some Earth immortals who had just taken up official positions didn't even have 400,000 spirit stones in their entire family. This wasn't just throwing away 1,000 spirit stones. This was King throwing away 10,000 spirit stones. The immortals who said it was a publicity stunt or that the price would soon be lowered were even more shocked. If a product was sold at a high price once or twice, it could be said to be a publicity stunt. However, the fact that the auction price could rise steadily was the problem of the product. The immortals were not fools. If they had really spent a sky-high price to eat a mediocre dish, they would have cursed and scolded the immortals a long time ago. There would never have been such a scene where the price and reputation of the dish soared. Poverty has limited my imagination. This price seems to have broken the record of the Celestial Court's regular dishes, right? The Celestial Court's regular dishes referred to delicacies that could be listed on the menu and could be cooked normally. As for those dishes made with special techniques and rare ingredients, they were not included. Yes, the previous highest price for a regular dish was Chef God Hu Jiahao's flamboyant dragon and phoenix dance, which was set at 360,000 spirit stones. Now, Lin's regular dish has been auctioned for 400,000 spirit stones. This is really terrifying. The scariest thing is that it's only been 8 days since he officially debuted in the Celestial Court. Hiss! Everyone realized this and sucked in a breath of cold air again. Such a terrifying rate of growth could no longer be described, as the younger generation will surpass the older. This was the rise of a new god. And Lin's name once again shook the Celestial Court. The last time he was famous in the Celestial Court was when he had beaten up emperors away. Now, with his cooking skills, he had once again made the immortals of the Celestial Court remember him. The 9th day, before the Celestial Court's divine chef and Lin's restaurant had even opened, the old chef god Hu Jiahao had appeared and officially issued a challenge to Lin. Lin accepted the challenge, and the match was officially set for the next day. Rumble. When the news spread, another magnitude 10 earthquake occurred, and Lin's terrifying rate of growth finally made the elderly chef god unable to sit still any longer. The new chef god and the old chef god had finally begun their official duel. All immortals without missions were looking forward to this pinnacle showdown. How many years has it been since the last chef god contest? Oh, is there such a thing as a chef god contest? You're still young. You're only 300 years old, so of course you don't know. That was 1,000 years ago. The immortals of the Celestial Court discussed heatedly, and they all turned their scorching eyes to the small restaurant on the food street. And Lin's restaurant opened, as usual today. This time, the auction price dropped a little. It was only sold for 370,000 spirit stones. After all, There were only a handful of filthy rich people in the celestial court. The 7 gift-giving girls had made Lin very happy and brought him to the peak, so it was normal for the price to drop a little later. After a few fights, the filthy rich people would slow down after eating a meal, and they wouldn't be as crazy as before. Sigh, I only sold it for 370,000 spirit stones. I'm really past my prime, and Lin lamented in the restaurant. The immortals in the restaurant almost vomited blood when they heard this. What the hell? Past your prime? You sold it for 370,000 spirit stones, and you're still complaining? Even the highest price of the god of cooking's regular dishes wasn't as high as yours. It was very normal for the price to fluctuate. If the price continued to rise, the immortals of the celestial court would probably start to doubt their lives. No, they were already starting to doubt their lives, an existence that could earn hundreds of thousands of spirit stones a day. Were you afraid? Even the 5 emperors of the celestial court couldn't earn as much money as Lin, let alone the god of cooking. Although their pursuit was no longer the spirit stones, it also showed how terrifying Lin's ability to earn money was. And Lin knew that he was indeed hyping up the dish. Although cooking with the frying pan, coupled with his cooking skills and the Vermilion Bird's fire control cheat, could make the dish perfect in every sense of the word. But in terms of value, it really wasn't worth that much money. The filthy rich immortals only wanted something new, so they couldn't come here every day. That's right, this kind of sky-high dish couldn't last long, and there were too few immortals who could afford it. What he could do now was to make his dish explode in popularity once again and make another wave of money. The old god of cooking had given him this opportunity. Next, whether he would soar into the clouds or fall into the abyss would depend on the battle tomorrow. Soon, the day that the immortals of the celestial court were looking forward to arrived. Lin counted the money he had earned in the past 8 days. After deducting the cost, he had earned a total of 7 million spirit stones, which was much more than selling steam buns. With the old god of cooking's help, he should be able to earn a lot more, and Lin confidently set foot on the path of slaying a god. In the celestial court, on the floating altar paved with gold and jade, the 9 dragon-engraved jade pillars stood at the edge of the floating heaven altar, exuding astonishing energy waves. Thousands of powerful immortals with ethereal auras had already gathered here. They were all immortals who had taken time out to watch the Battle of the Pinnacle. Such a grand event hadn't been seen in the celestial court for several years. On one side was the rising star of the god of cooking, and on the other side was the old god of cooking. Whether Lin would be able to stabilize his divinity or be beaten back to his original state by Hu Jiahao would all depend on this battle. An elderly man sat on a 9-colored lotus flower throne with 9-colored divine light revolving around his head, and he was the referee for this chef god contest. This elderly man had an extremely powerful background, as he was one of the 5 emperors of the celestial court, Emperor Qing Hua of the Eastern Extreme East. Emperor Qing Hua wasn't the same Qing Hua that Dubai could ascend. He was a Tao integration stage, super mighty figure, and he was also known as the Heavenly Lord of Salvation due to his forte in guiding souls from suffering to the afterlife. Emperor Qing Hua was the referee, and his thoughts were actually quite simple. If he could eat the dishes of 2 top-tier immortal chefs for free, why wouldn't he do it? Beside him, a pair of adorable male and female immortals announced in unison. Now, let's welcome the contestants of the Chef God Contest, Hu Jiahao and Lin, onto the stage. Chapter 889. His confident and arrogant words sent shock waves through everyone's hearts. The ingredients were even simpler. There was a Dubai vegetable, an eggplant, celestial court garden chicken, a piece of pork, a few eggs, and some onions and garlic. I've tasted Mr. and Lin's cooking before, and it's a one-of-a-kind dish, so Lin is definitely going to win this competition. They only had one chance, so they had to do their best and couldn't be too reckless. All right. You can wait there. A warm smile appeared on Emperor Qing Hua's face as he pointed to one of the competition platforms, upon which there were all types of cooking utensils. All of the spectators were definitely not going to sit back and relax, and they all began to chat with one another. It has to be Big Brother and Lin. His cooking is even better. The beautiful maiden chimed in without any hesitation. If you like him, then go after him. It's not like you're going to break the heavens if you're in a relationship. The woman in a jade dress chimed in. I don't think it's a big deal. Young people should have this kind of aggressive spirit. At this moment, Lin began to make his way onto the competition platform. Jin Tong. Lin Junjun's cheeks were flushed with excitement, and all of the other beautiful celestial maidens were hooting incessantly, creating a beautiful spectacle for the spectators. And Lin extended a respectful salute at the sight of the elderly man. And Lin pays his respects to Emperor Qinghua. The chef god didn't deny Lin's cooking skills, and Lin felt a little less motivated upon seeing this. Emperor Qinghua stroked his beard with a pleased expression upon seeing Lin's reaction. It looks like Mr. Lin is very confident. That's right. When everyone saw the frying pan in Lin's hand, expressions of shock, disdain, or disappointment appeared on their faces. Look, Lin is also making his move. Seventh sister, the man of your dreams, is making his way onto the competition platform. The celestial maiden in a red dress chuckled seductively as she spoke in a loud voice. Mortals, I will let you experience the terror of being dominated by a frying pan. He had tried cooking dishes with such simple ingredients before, such as the cola chicken dish he made for Xiaolan. However, it was still not good enough. It wasn't amazing enough. After all, he was the one who personally displayed his cooking skills. This kind of scene was more than enough to look at. Something special? Is it ugly? Some of them even rubbed their eyes and looked again. Then they took a deep breath in disbelief. Yes, arrogance without strength is stupid, but arrogance with strength is charisma. Moreover, his culinary skills might really be as good as what he said. While the immortals were discussing, the little immortal was not idle either. Big Brother Lin is so handsome, a feast for the eyes. The Jade Maiden said with a clear and melodious voice. What a simple reason. Big sister, what nonsense are you talking about? He was still dressed in white, and his handsome face was filled with confidence and calmness. Even in the face of thousands of immortals, he didn't show the slightest bit of stage fright. Nothing special? No, I think there's something special about it. A certain retarded fan retorted. And Lin might have some special ingredients or secret techniques that can enhance the deliciousness of the dish. However, in the face of such simple ingredients, Hu Jiahao's superb culinary skills, as well as his terrifying experience and creativity as the chef god, are the keys to victory. Everyone turned toward the competition platform to find that Hu Jiahao was making his move. Hu Jiahao and Emperor Qinghua also made their way toward the competition platform after bowing. Lin and Hu Jiahao were both deep in thought. The elegant woman, Lin Junjun, glared at the woman beside her with an enraged expression. Perhaps it was because he had received some kind of inspiration, but a thought suddenly flashed through in Lin's mind, and he also knew what kind of dish he was going to make. That dish was related to the newest member of his extended family. Just as they were speaking, another burst of exclamations erupted from the crowd. Arrogance, this was way too arrogant. Chef God Hu Jiahao also made his way onto the platform. He wore a red robe, and his facial features were rough and coarse. His eyes were glowing, and there was a stubble on his face. He appeared to be quite weathered, but his aura was very powerful. His voice had only just fallen when another round of uproar erupted among the immortals. At this moment, the pair of male and female attendants flew toward Lin and Hu Jiahao, and they waved a hand, upon which the ingredients and condiments appeared before them. And it's an inky black and completely mundane frying pan. The immortals were still discussing spiritedly among themselves, and they all had different opinions. A second later, countless immortals' eyes widened with shock. The pair of attendants announced in a clear voice, "Contestants will have 2 hours to create a dish from the ingredients and condiments provided by us. Whoever makes the dish that is more delicious and of higher quality will win, and Emperor Qinghua will be the judge. Emperor Qinghua will also have the final say." Ever since Lin obtained the frying pan, He had been practicing his cooking skills every single day. After all, he couldn't let such a good frying pan go to waste, so he had mastered quite a few dishes. And Lin looked at Hu Jiahao, and Hu Jiahao looked back at Lin. This was the first time the two of them had ever met, and it was as if sparks were about to explode in their eyes. Hu Jiahao said in an indifferent voice, "Your cooking skills may be quite good, but I'm going to make all the immortals understand that your dishes aren't worth that price." And Lin didn't really care about this, and a confident smile appeared on his face. The pair of attendants faltered upon hearing this. "Why, it's out. That's the chef god's personal frying pan, the flying god yellow frying pan. It's as pleasing to the eye as beautiful jade, and it was forged from divine rank yellow jade. Not only is it non-toxic, but it's also extremely resistant to high temperatures. Furthermore, it's able to enhance the taste of a dish every time it's cooked." Some immortals were quite annoyed, while others wore expressions of appreciation. However, in Lin's eyes, it was only a so-so. A celestial maiden in a blue dress smiled. "Seventh sister, I've watched you grow up, and I've never seen you care so much about another man. Do you still want to deny it?" There were over 20 return to Void Stage celestial immortals, close to 1,000 Soul Formation Stage Earth immortals, and Spirit Nurturing Stage immortals. In the eyes of a normal cultivator, they would most likely be so nervous that they wouldn't even be able to walk. "Let me see what kind of frying pan he's using. Am I seeing things? Is that a frying pan?" And Lin was quite surprised to hear this. The criteria for judging a dish wasn't just limited to taste, but also to quality. This required the chef to have the ability to turn something rotten into something extraordinary. After all, the ingredients and condiments were all quite ordinary, so the key was how to improve the quality of the dish. And Lin naturally couldn't back down, and a smile appeared on his face. "Then I'll prove to you that my dishes are worthy of any price." At this moment, both Lin and Hu Jiahao fell into deep thought. The immortals couldn't help but let out cries of surprise. Looking at the god of cookery's art-like frying pan was a special kind of enjoyment. That's right. If we get him, we'll be able to enjoy delicious food. Just thinking about it makes me happy," the celestial maiden in the yellow dress said with a smile. "Hee, don't praise Lin so much. Hu Jiahao has been the god of cookery for thousands of years. How could he lose to a kid who just made his debut? And Lin is a newbie who just made his debut. No matter how good his culinary skills are, he shouldn't say something like that. His condescending attitude is already a sign of conceit." Jin Tong snuck up to the Jade Maiden and whispered, "Xiao Yu, who do you think will win?" Chapter 890. Frying pans are mediocre? Frying pans are ugly? You're right. However, I'm going to show you guys what it means to be a chef. And Lin was full of fighting spirit as he placed the frying pan on the rack in the air. True immortal chefs all use their own spell techniques and flames instead of external flames. And Lin was the same. At this moment, Hu Jiahao had already unleashed his flames, upon which another wave of astonishment erupted. "It's here! Divine Chef Hu Jiahao's Crimson Gold Divine Flame. This is the divine flame extracted from the very center of the Crimson Gold Purgatory. It has the ability to expel all evil and enhance the pure yang energy of food. As expected, only a divine flame can bring out the power of a divine chef. I wonder what Mr. Lin's flame is. It should be a divine flame as well. He's still quite young, but he's definitely powerful." And Lin couldn't help but shake his head in exasperation at the sight of the divine chefs unleashing their divine flames. He really didn't want to flex with a divine flame, but why were these immortals so shocked at the sight of a divine flame? Boom! 1 Saint Fire and 6 divine fires appeared at the same time. The divine might of the flames was vast and mighty, and the sacred might of the Saint Fire was intimidating. In an instant, the temperature of the entire place shot up, almost blinding the immortals. Am I seeing things? 7 divine flames? No, it's 6 divine flames and a holy flame. Holy F *CK. That's way too terrifying. Chef God Hu Jiahao's hand trembled in fright upon seeing this, and his flames almost exploded. What the F asterisk CK? Did divine flames cost nothing? So many at once? Was that scary? This time, even Emperor Qinghua wore an expression of surprise on his face. Lin's expression remained unchanged as he waved a hand through the air. The different flames landed at the bottom of the frying pan at the same time, like obedient fairies before dancing with elation. And Lin, no, the holy flame vermilion bird, was happily manipulating the flames to prepare for the frying pan. Hu Jiahao was a seasoned divine chef, and he quickly composed himself. This wasn't a competition to see who had more flames. Instead, it was a competition to see who could cook the best. He took out a kitchen knife and began to cut the dishes in front of him. The saber light was like the clouds and mist. It was ethereal and traceless, but contained bursts of sharpness. Every movement was as smooth as flowing water, pleasing to the eye. And Lin also started to use his knife. No, his sword. Yes, under the flabbergasted gazes of all the immortals, he withdrew a pitch-black sword and then slashed at the dishes on the table. This was not because Lin was deliberately going easy on him, but because he was already used to using a sword. Sword techniques were much stronger than saber techniques. Furthermore, he had been cooking with his evil slaying sword for the past 2 years. It could be said that his cooking sword technique was not weaker than the god of cooking's knife technique. Evil slaying sword, God knows what I've been through. And Lin knew what was going on, but the other immortals didn't. Holy SH**T. And Lin is too arrogant. He's cooking with his sword. Mockery. This is blatant mockery. He has gone too far. Maybe people are used to cooking with swords. Bullsh**T. Who the F***CK would use a sword to cook, and an immortal tool to make a cooking utensil? What kind of immortal tool is that? That's true. No one would do something like that unless there's something wrong with their head. Seventh sister, Yuren Lin is so interesting. He's a weirdo in all aspects. One extraordinary man. The eldest of the 7 celestial maidens chortled with glee. Perhaps this is the real deal. The blue-robed celestial maiden's eyes widened. But the sword is a long sword, while the saber is a kitchen knife, Lin Junjun added expressionlessly. The scene was far too bizarre, and she was struck by a sense of dissonance. Was this really the scene of the chef god competition? But gradually, the immortals began to look at Lin in a different light. Even though he was using a sword, his technique was really quite impressive. In fact, it could even be described as breathtaking. What a powerful sword technique. In terms of technique and precision, it's comparable to the god of cooking's saber technique. However, in terms of the fusion of saber technique and cooking intent realms, the god of cooking is still superior. After all, he has a lot of experience. And Lin's flame control is what surprises me the most. You may not be able to tell, but the more I look at him, the more astonished I become. His technique is truly insanely perfect. Both of them have their own advantages. It looks like it's going to be very difficult to determine the winner until the very last moment. That's right, it was impossible to determine the winner of this competition before the results were revealed. Both of them were extremely powerful, and even the most astute person wouldn't be able to say for sure who would emerge as the champion. Hu Jiahao's dish was to buy eggplant, celestial court garden chicken, pork, eggs, onions, and garlic were all used. All of the ingredients danced in the air, creating a series of dazzling and mesmerizing images. Half an hour later, the pork was roasted red, and the chicken was even more so golden and shiny. The charcoal and mellow fragrance wafted through the air, creating an extremely alluring scene. Countless immortals were mesmerized. Many of them looked at the dish that was gradually taking shape, and their eyes burned with desire. It couldn't be helped. The aroma was simply too tempting. Many immortals began to praise the god of cooking. Cooking god Hu Jiahao waved a hand, and the crimson gold divine flame enveloped the dish in a wok like a ball. Everyone knew that this was the aroma sealing stage. It was a sealing measure to prevent the freshness and fragrance of the food from dissipating. This way, when the consumer opened the lid, they would be able to eat the most delicious dish immediately. And Lin had also entered the final aroma sealing stage. However, he had been sealing the food's aroma from beginning to end, along with the uncooked life energy. It was also because of this that no one knew how his dish would taste like. Rumble. The crimson gold flame swept up a ball of food and landed on the pure white dish. Hu Jiahao covered the dish with his hand, instantly sealing everything inside the lid. Success. The spectating immortals cheered again. Setting aside the food, just the scene of the god of cooking was extremely pleasing to the eye. He deserved to be cheered for. Hu Jiahao nodded at the immortals with a faint smile on his face. After showing off his skills and having someone shout 666, no matter who it was, they would feel very happy. Boom! Another scorching wave of flames surged forth. The white holy flame seemed to have the clear cry of a vermilion bird, and the 6 divine flames formed a beautiful pair of wings, carrying the impenetrable food directly toward the large dish. Finally, the flames exploded like fireworks, and Lin seized this opportunity and immediately covered the dish with the lid. This time, the cheers were like a huge wave, and there were even some shrill cries of immortal maidens. They had all been won over by Lin's superb swordsmanship, cooking skills, and fire control techniques. There was no harm without comparison. Hu Jiahao's lips twitched as he listened to these completely different cheers. It's all just some fancy stuff. The real deciding factor is the food. And Lin smiled confidently. Then let's see who's more of a noob. I'm definitely more of a noob. Hu Jiahao replied without hesitation. Chapter 891. After saying this, Hu Jiahao suddenly felt like something was amiss. And Lin repressed his laughter. Hu Jiahao glowered at Lin with rage. If it weren't for the fact that there were so many spectators around, the two of them would most likely be engaged in a battle. Please bring the dishes to the judges, Hu Jiahao and Lin, the pair of male and female attendants, said in unison. Both of them made their way toward Emperor Qinghua with large plates in their hands before placing them on the table. Emperor Qinghua swallowed involuntarily. Being able to eat 2 free, supreme-grade dishes in a single day was a very rare occasion. So, whose dish should I eat first? He glanced at the 2 lidded dishes before him. Seeing as divine chef, Hu Jiahao finished his dish before Lin. Then let's eat Hu Jiahao's dish first. A faint smile appeared on Emperor Qinghua's face as he removed the lids. All of a sudden, a golden light as dazzling as the sun appeared. It's the treasured light of food. All of the immortals' eyes widened as they let loose cries of surprise. His dish has been infused with the Tao realm of an immortal chef. When the quality of the dish reaches the pinnacle, a golden treasured light will appear. Divine Chef Hu Jiahao's treasured light is as dazzling as a miniature sun. The quality of his dish is extremely high. Just as everyone was exclaiming with amazement, the projections of 5 celestial maidens began to dance in the air. At the same time, heavenly music began to reverberate through the air. Is this the intent realm of food? It's so beautiful. Sister 4, I feel like those celestial maidens are even more beautiful than your dancing. Piss off. And Lin was also quite surprised. So it was possible to create a phenomenon without the help of a frying pan? It had to be said that Hu Jiahao's Tao realm was superior to his. Soon, the phenomenon disappeared, and the light converged on the plates of food. Only then did everyone turn their attention to the dishes. 5 fairies, who looked as if they had been carved out of jade, were standing around the dishes. Their purplish-yellow dresses were draped over their fair bodies, making them appear elegant and otherworldly. Between them was a flawless full moon that was glowing with a faint light. The immortals were dazed. A thought popped up in their minds. Was this really a dish? However, very quickly, an incomparable fragrance began to spread. The fragrance of the egg white and the tender and fresh fragrance of the chicken blended together, causing one's appetite to increase. My God, this fragrance. I can't take it anymore. An immortal's eyes lit up as he stared fixedly at the dishes on the table. If not for his friend holding him back, he would have pounced on the food like a hungry wolf. Cooking god Hu Jiahao smiled and cupped his hands. This dish is called Immortals Surrounding the Moon. Please have a taste, Your Majesty. Emperor Qinghua nodded with a faint smile upon hearing this. All right, then let me have a taste of divine chef who's cooking. He stretched out his chopsticks and picked up a piece of the moon. He found that the moon was being pulled, and it started to fluctuate rhythmically. It started to disappear from the edge, as if the moon was declining. Emperor Qinghua's eyes lit up. The waxing and waning of the moon. Interesting, everyone exclaimed again. Amazing special effects. I really want to eat it. Emperor Qinghua placed the piece of meat into his mouth, and his entire body shuddered involuntarily as the delicious aroma of the meat assaulted his entire body. Super delicious. If there weren't anyone else around, he would be able to devour this dish like a tornado. However, in order to maintain his image, he could only chew slowly with an expression of appreciation and forced himself to be reserved. To hell with his reserved attitude. This was a blissful yet painful experience. Emperor Qinghua felt like his taste buds were being stimulated by the fragrance, and he felt like he was about to swallow his own tongue. He instinctively wanted to pick up a second piece of meat, but he hesitated momentarily at the sight of the Celestial Maiden before picking up another piece of meat from the plate. The Celestial Maiden was picked up and eaten in one bite. Cries of surprise erupted from the crowd. The Celestial Maiden was so adorable. Why was he eating her? Emperor Qinghua's eyes lit up as he began to comment. The exterior of this Celestial Maiden dish is carved from egg white, and the clothes are woven from egg yolk and eggplant fibers. The fragrance of nature emanates from its entire body. The first bite is refreshing, but the aftertaste is endless. This is a superb vegetarian dish. He then continued to comment on the moon. As for the moon in the center, it is made from chicken and pork that have been meticulously cooked with crimson golden flames. The freshness of the meat has been preserved to 100%, and it has an alluring and delicious aroma. This is a superb vegetarian dish. The perfect combination of meat and vegetable is extremely creative, and his chopsticks never stopped moving. Emperor Qinghua exclaimed in admiration, but his chopsticks never stopped moving as he continued to eat. All of the other immortals' eyes were filled with envy. They couldn't eat such delicious food, so they could only stare at it with envy and jealousy. What do we do, seventh sister? I feel like Mr. and Lin is going to lose. The Celestial Maiden in a green dress smacked her lips as she stared at the moon with a scorching light in her eyes. A faint smile appeared on Lin Junjun's face. And Lin's cooking is the best. I believe he can win. Yo! The woman in a red dress turned to look at her. Yo, yo, yo. All of the Celestial Maidens turned to look at her, as if they had found something to make fun of. Thus, another round of teasing ensued. Lin Junjun, it does look and smell good, but Enlin's is definitely better. The lightning goddess had already become a fan of Enlin's after eating one of his dishes. You're right, wife. The lightning god chimed in with a wide grin. Even though he said that the emotions in his words were already a clear indication of the quality of Chef God Hu Jiahao's dish. If it weren't for the fact that this dish posed a huge threat to Enlin's chances of winning, they wouldn't be saying this. All of the other immortals discussed among themselves with expressions of amazement and admiration. A triumphant smile appeared on Hu Jiahao's face as he glanced at Enlin. Enlin's expression remained calm as he looked at Emperor Qinghua. Emperor Qinghua finished all of Hu Jiahao's dishes, and his eyes narrowed slightly as he smacked his lips in relish. After a short pause, he turned to Enlin's dish. Now let me see the cooking skills of the Celestial Court's new chef god, Mr. Enlin. He chuckled as he lifted the lid of the dish. All of the immortals also turned to look at the second dish upon hearing this. After the lid was lifted, no treasured light was revealed. There's no treasured light? All of the immortals were astonished. Even Emperor Qinghua's expression shifted. If a dish didn't even have treasured light, then its quality would drop to a lower level. There was no need to even mention the visual and auditory feast that occurred when the lid was opened. However, when that dish really appeared in front of them, they couldn't help but sigh. Their astonishment transformed into incredulity. A huge, translucent, snowy white egg stood atop the dish, exuding a flawless white light under the light of the sun.